Beneath the sands of time, scattered across continents and oceans, stand the silent witnesses of a forgotten age, structures so precise, so impossibly advanced, that even today, their true origins defy explanation. Massive stones cut with surgical precision, temples aligned perfectly with the stars, cities built in patterns that mirror the constellations themselves. Archaeologists have mapped, measured, and analyzed, but the deeper they dig, the stranger it gets. Who built these places? What knowledge did they possess? And why do traces of the same architectural genius appear in cultures separated by oceans and millennia? From the sun-scorched plateaus of Peru to the buried ruins of ancient Palestine, these sites whisper of civilizations that rose and vanished long before our recorded history began. Each discovery pushes the limits of what we thought we knew about the ancient world. The stones are speaking. The question is, are we ready to listen? So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the mysteries of ancient structures that remain unsolved to this day. Amid the rolling hills of southeastern Africa, where golden grasses sway beneath a vast and endless sky, lies a place that has watched centuries rise and fall in silence. The ruins of Great Zimbabwe stand as a monument to both human ingenuity and the enduring mystery of time. Massive granite walls twist through the landscape, their stones laid without mortar, each one fitting so perfectly to the next that even a blade of grass can barely pass between them. These walls have endured for nearly 1,000 years, weathering storms, wars, and the slow encroachment of the earth itself. And yet, even now, they refuse to reveal all their secrets. The name Zimbabwe itself means House of Stone. Long before it became the name of a modern nation, it described this extraordinary city, once the heart of a powerful kingdom that thrived between the 11th and 15th centuries AD. From this high plateau, the rulers of Great Zimbabwe commanded vast trade routes stretching across the African interior, linking gold-rich mines to distant ports along the Indian Ocean. Archaeological evidence tells us that traders from as far away as China and the Arabian Peninsula exchanged goods here: porcelain, beads, and glass for ivory and gold. This was not an isolated kingdom hidden from the world, but a hub of wealth and connection, a seat of power built from stone and ambition. Yet for all we can trace of its history, there remains much we cannot. The great enclosure, with its soaring circular walls and conical towers, seems less a fortress than a statement, a declaration of identity, of strength, perhaps even of spirituality. Its design defies easy categorization. No mortar binds the granite, yet the structure has survived for centuries. The architecture suggests knowledge of geometry, balance, and precision far beyond what outsiders once believed possible for the region's builders. When European explorers first stumbled upon the ruins in the 19th century, they could not accept that such sophistication had arisen indigenously in Africa. Theories spread, some absurd, others disturbingly political. Some claimed the city was built by Phoenicians or Arabs, others suggested it was the lost city of Ophir, described in biblical tales as the source of King Solomon's gold. In time, these colonial myths were debunked, their motives laid bare. Archaeological evidence confirmed beyond doubt that Great Zimbabwe was built by the ancestors of the Shona people, skilled craftsmen and traders who left behind an enduring legacy in stone. Still, even when the falsehoods are stripped away, questions remain. Why was Great Zimbabwe abandoned? What caused the sudden decline of this once mighty center of trade and culture? Climate change, overgrazing, shifting trade routes, all have been proposed, yet none tell the whole story. The city did not fall to war or invasion. It simply faded. Its people moved on, leaving behind only their walls and their silence. And then there are the more speculative whispers, those that hover at the edge of mainstream scholarship. Some point to the astronomical alignments of the structures, suggesting they may have been designed in harmony with the stars, perhaps marking solstices or celestial events. Others wonder about the enigmatic soapstone birds found among the ruins, 8 intricate carvings, each perched atop a pillar, part bird and part human. Were they royal symbols, totems of ancestors, or something more mysterious? Certain fringe interpretations go further still, proposing that Great Zimbabwe might be older than we think, that it could have been built atop even earlier foundations. Some see in its walls traces of a forgotten global network of ancient knowledge, connecting, somehow, the megalithic builders of distant continents. There is no evidence to support such claims, yet the idea lingers, as many mysteries do, in the space between fact and fascination. Standing amid the ruins, one feels the weight of both history and absence. The walls seem to breathe in the heat, exhaling a quiet defiance against the centuries. Each stone, carefully shaped and placed, speaks of a people who understood the permanence of their craft, even as their civilization slipped into legend. From the hill complex above, one can look out across the valleys once filled with huts, fields, and voices, and wonder what the builders might think if they could see what remains. Today, Great Zimbabwe endures as a national symbol, its image etched on currency and its spirit woven into the fabric of the land. Yet, for all its cultural importance, it remains an enigma. The granite walls hold their silence. The conical tower offers no inscription, no code, no map to its meaning. The archaeologist's trowel can uncover the past, but not always the why of it. Perhaps that is the greatest allure of Great Zimbabwe, not only the skill that built it, but the mystery that time has preserved within its stones. Who walked these courtyards? What ceremonies were held beneath the moonlight? And what message, carved into granite and geometry, did they hope would endure long after they were gone? The ruins wait, as they always have, quiet, steadfast, and watching. Somewhere within their ancient walls, the echoes of an untold story remain, waiting for someone to listen closely enough to hear. As the mist rolls in from the Atlantic, it drapes itself across the quiet countryside of Brittany in northwestern France. Here, among low green fields and windswept heather, lies one of Europe's oldest and most enduring enigmas. Row upon row of towering stones stretch into the horizon, thousands of them, standing as if frozen in time. These are the Carnac Stones, an ancient alignment so vast and deliberate that it continues to defy full understanding. Over 3,000 menhirs, single standing stones, dot the landscape, forming long parallel rows that run for more than 4 kilometers. Some rise no higher than a person's shoulder, while others stand over 16 feet tall, weighing several tons. Their surfaces are worn and lichen-covered, their edges softened by the passing of nearly 7,000 years. Yet the sheer precision of their arrangement, the patience required to move and place each one, suggests a purpose both monumental and deeply symbolic. Archaeologists date the Carnac Stones to around 4,500 BC, centuries before the first pyramids of Egypt or the great stone circles of Britain. They were raised by a Neolithic community whose name has been lost to history. These were people who farmed the land, hunted the forests, and buried their dead beneath earthen mounds. But what drove them to erect such a colossal and enduring monument remains an open question. Some scholars believe the alignments were part of an ancient ritual landscape, a place where the living and the dead, the earth and the heavens, were brought into harmony. The lines of stones may have marked sacred processional routes or defined ceremonial spaces for seasonal gatherings. Others see in the geometry of Carnac something more cosmic, an ancient observatory where the stones charted the movement of the sun and stars. Studies have found possible alignments with solstices and lunar cycles, hinting that these prehistoric builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. But even if the stones were meant to measure time, the scale of the project seems far beyond practical necessity. To transport and stand these massive monoliths without the aid of metal tools, wheels, or beasts of burden would have required not only extraordinary strength and coordination, but shared belief, a vision compelling enough to unite generations. What could have inspired such devotion? For centuries, the people of Brittany have told stories to fill the silence. According to local legend, the stones are a Roman army turned to stone by the magician Merlin, frozen mid-March for all eternity. Others say they were ancient warriors, petrified as punishment for defying the gods. In these tales, myth becomes memory, a way to explain the inexplicable. Modern science offers its own array of theories. Some researchers point to acoustic phenomena, the way wind and sound interact among the stones, suggesting that Carnac may have been designed to amplify voices or music during rituals. Others look beneath the soil, using ground-penetrating radar to search for lost structures, graves, or patterns that might reveal the builder's intent. Each discovery, though illuminating, seems only to deepen the mystery. There are, of course, more speculative ideas, those that reach beyond accepted archaeology. Some have proposed that the site was once a prehistoric power grid, channeling energies from the earth itself. Others imagine it as a kind of ancient code, a message carved into the landscape, waiting to be deciphered. There are even those who claim the stones may mark the remnants of an older civilization, one that vanished long before recorded history began. While these fringe theories capture the imagination, the truth, whatever it may be, remains elusive. The stones themselves offer no inscriptions, no carvings, no clear symbols to guide interpretation. They simply stand, row upon row, as they have for millennia, silent, enduring, indifferent to our questions. At sunset, when the light stretches low and golden across the field, the stones cast long shadows that seem to align perfectly with one another, as though reenacting an ancient ritual beyond our understanding. It is a haunting sight, a meeting of geometry and mystery, nature and human intent. What purpose did they serve? Were they instruments of the heavens, temples of the earth, or something entirely beyond our present imagination? The wind moves softly through the stones, carrying whispers of a world that once was, of minds that thought differently, of beliefs now forgotten. And as the daylight fades, the Carnac Stones remain, mute sentinels of a civilization that spoke through granite, leaving behind one of humanity's oldest unsolved riddles. High in the sacred valley of the Andes, where the air thins and the mountains rise like jagged monuments to eternity, lies a site both majestic and confounding. Terraces carved into the mountainside descend in perfect symmetry, while colossal stone blocks, each one weighing tens of tons, rest with uncanny precision upon one another. This is Ollantaytambo, one of the crown jewels of ancient Peru, and a place that still defies complete understanding. From a distance, the ruins appear to emerge naturally from the rock, as if the mountain itself had been sculpted by unseen hands. But a closer look reveals something extraordinary. Seamless joints between massive andesite stones, surfaces polished to near perfection, and angles so precise they fit together like the pieces of a colossal puzzle. Even after centuries of earthquakes and erosion, the walls remain unshaken, an enduring testament to an engineering mastery that modern tools struggle to replicate. Historians tell us that Ollantaytambo was built by the Incas during the 15th century, serving as both a fortress and a ceremonial center. It was also one of the last strongholds of resistance against the Spanish conquest. Yet, as archaeologists study its foundations, they encounter details that raise deeper questions. Some of the most massive blocks used in the upper terraces of the Temple of the Sun seem to predate Inca construction altogether. Their surfaces bear marks that differ from known Inca stoneworking techniques, suggesting the possibility of an earlier, perhaps even older, civilization that once occupied this sacred ground. How were these immense stones transported? The quarry lies across the Urubamba River, several kilometers away, separated by steep ravines and treacherous slopes. No evidence of wheels or beasts of burden capable of hauling such weights has ever been found. Some theorize that the builders used a network of ramps and rolling stones, or teams of laborers pulling with fiber ropes. Others suggest more enigmatic possibilities, methods or technologies lost to time, perhaps rooted in knowledge of balance, sound, or vibration beyond our modern understanding. As sunlight moves across the ruins, shadows play along the terraces, revealing subtle alignments that seem too deliberate to be accidental. Archaeologists have noted that certain walls and niches correspond to solstices and equinoxes, marking the passage of the sun with mathematical accuracy. Could Ollantaytambo have been more than a fortress? Perhaps a vast astronomical observatory? A temple that measured the heavens as much as it honored the gods of the earth? Within its walls, one feature in particular captures the imagination: the Wall of the 6 Monoliths. Each slab stands upright, perfectly fitted, forming a structure of awe-inspiring scale. Between the stones, thin seams align so precisely that they appear drawn with a ruler. On their surfaces, strange symbols, small notches and geometric carvings remain visible, though their meaning is lost. Were these marks purely decorative, or could they be remnants of a forgotten language of stone? Mainstream archaeology attributes the site's precision to the Incas' remarkable skill and discipline, achieved through trial, error, and centuries of experience with Andean stone. Yet others argue that such feats point toward something more complex, a legacy inherited rather than invented. In this view, the Incas were the inheritors of an older knowledge, perhaps from a civilization long vanished, whose understanding of geometry and architecture surpassed what conventional history can comfortably explain. There are even those who propose more speculative ideas, that the builders had access to techniques that softened or molded stone, or that the site itself was aligned with magnetic or telluric forces in the earth. These theories remain unproven, but they reflect a simple truth. Ollantaytambo continues to challenge the boundaries of what we think we know about the ancient world. Standing amid the terraces, one feels the convergence of earth, sky, and human intention. The air hums faintly with the sound of wind weaving through narrow corridors of stone. The mountains rise in solemn silence, as if guarding the memory of what once transpired here. The site is not merely an architectural achievement. It is a dialogue between humanity and the cosmos, written in granite and sunlight. As dusk falls, the shadows deepen and the stones seem to glow with a quiet presence. They endure, as they have for centuries, untouched by the passage of time. And still, the question lingers. Who first dreamed of shaping this mountain into a temple of perfect form? What ancient hands laid the first stone, and what knowledge, now forgotten, guided their work? Ollantaytambo stands as both monument and mystery, a bridge between history and legend, between what we know and what we can only imagine. Somewhere in its seamless walls and sunlit terraces, the answers remain, waiting to be rediscovered. High in the Bolivian Andes, more than 12,000 feet above sea level, the winds sweep cold and clear across a desolate plateau. Here, among the scattered stones of an ancient ruin, lies one of the greatest enigmas of the pre-Columbian world. Massive blocks of red sandstone and gray andesite rest upon the earth as if abandoned mid-construction, their edges sharp, their angles immaculate. This is Puma Punku, A place so precise, so perplexing, that even after centuries of study, it refuses to yield all its secrets. From the first glance, the site defies expectation. The ruins sit near the larger Tiwanaku complex, once the spiritual and political heart of an empire that flourished between 500 and 1000 AD. But the craftsmanship of Puma Punku seems to exceed what should have been possible in that age. Gigantic stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, lie strewn across the site, carved with an exactness that would challenge modern engineers. The most iconic are the H-shaped stones, their intricate notches and interlocking grooves forming patterns that suggest modular design, as if the builders were assembling a vast geometric code in stone. Archaeologists agree that the site was part of the Tiwanaku civilization, but its true purpose remains uncertain. Was it a temple, a royal complex, or something more esoteric, a place built not only to honor the gods, but to mimic their order? Excavations have uncovered fragments of fine pottery, gold ornaments, and even traces of ancient irrigation channels, hinting at an advanced and organized society. Yet the engineering precision of the stonework stands apart. The corners are razor-sharp, the surfaces polished to a smoothness almost metallic in texture, and the symmetry so flawless that even a thin sheet of paper cannot slide between the joins. How could such craftsmanship have been achieved with the tools available over 1,000 years ago? Conventional archaeology suggests that the builders used stone hammers, sand abrasion, and patient labor to carve the andesite. But the density of the rock, second only to granite, makes this explanation difficult to imagine at such scale. No inscriptions, blueprints, or records survive to explain their techniques. The stones themselves are the only witnesses. Some have speculated that copper chisels, combined with abrasive sand, could have shaped the stone, though reproducing the same precision today requires diamond-tipped tools. Others wonder if the builders possessed methods now lost, perhaps the use of simple yet highly effective devices for measurement, leveling, and alignment. The geometry of Puma Punku hints at an understanding of mathematics that seems far ahead of its time. The blocks are not only uniform but consistent in dimension, as if following a system of measurement shared across generations of builders. More speculative theories reach further. A few researchers have suggested that the site predates the Tiwanaku civilization altogether, that it may be a remnant of an even older, unknown culture. Radiocarbon samples from nearby structures have produced dates as early as 2000 BC, though these remain disputed. Still, the idea persists that Puma Punku may be a surviving fragment of a lost chapter in human history, one erased by time and cataclysm. Others venture into the realm of the unconventional. Some propose that the builders had access to techniques for softening stone, using plant-based chemical compounds that temporarily altered its structure, allowing it to be molded before hardening again. Theorists point to the impossibly smooth joins and tight tolerances as evidence of such knowledge, though scientific proof has never been found. And then there are the even more imaginative suggestions that the site preserves traces of a forgotten technology, or that its precise alignments with the solstices and surrounding landscape may reflect an understanding of cosmic forces lost to the modern world. Whatever its origin, the site's mystery deepens when viewed in context. Tiwanaku, just a short distance away, was once home to tens of thousands of people and served as a ceremonial hub connecting the highlands to distant trade routes. Yet the effort required to build Puma Punku, to quarry, transport, and shape these enormous stones, suggests a purpose that went beyond the practical. It seems almost devotional, an act of engineering as sacred ritual. Today, the ruins lie scattered across the plain, their massive blocks toppled by earthquakes or time. Lichens creep across their surfaces. The wind hums through their hollow channels. But even in ruin, the precision remains. Visitors walk among the stones in quiet awe, tracing the edges of cuts so straight they appear machine-made, and wonder, what knowledge did these builders possess that we have forgotten? Was Puma Punku simply the pinnacle of ancient Andean craftsmanship, or evidence of something deeper, something that challenges our understanding of the past? As the sun sets over the Altiplano, the stones turn red with fading light. In that silence, the ancient geometry seems almost alive, whispering of a time when humanity's relationship with the earth and the heavens may have been far more intricate than we imagine. The mystery endures, etched into stone, waiting for its meaning to be found once again. Beyond the shifting dunes of the Arabian desert, where the wind sculpts the sandstone into silent waves, lies a place that feels suspended between worlds. Here, in a valley of golden cliffs and sunburnt rock, stand hundreds of monumental tombs, each carved with impossible precision into the very face of the stone. This is Mada'in Saleh, an ancient necropolis etched into the desert itself. As the light changes, its facades glow from deep amber to rose gold, their shadows stretching like the memories of a vanished civilization. At first glance, the site seems eerily familiar. Its towering entrances, intricate cornices, and geometric carvings echoing those of Petra, the more famous Nabatean city to the north. But Mada'in Saleh, once known as Hagar, has its own voice. It was the southern jewel of the Nabatean kingdom, a wealthy crossroads of trade and culture that flourished between the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD. 1st century AD. Camel caravans passed through here carrying incense, myrrh, and spices, linking the Mediterranean world with the vast trade networks of Arabia, Mesopotamia, and beyond. The Nabateans were master builders, engineers who turned raw stone into architecture that seemed to defy both time and gravity. Yet, while their artistry remains visible, much of their civilization's story has faded into the dust. No records tell us exactly how they carved these immense tombs, or why so many were left unfinished. Each facade rises in mathematical perfection, doorways leading into darkness, crowned by stair-step designs that point toward the heavens. Their craftsmanship is astonishing. Clean, straight lines chiseled into sandstone as if drawn with instruments of steel, not bronze or iron. Archaeologists believe the tombs served as resting places for Nabatean elites, their inscriptions, written in a language that blends Aramaic and Arabic, naming the dead and warning against trespassers. But beyond these formal statements, the stones are silent. What rituals were performed here? What beliefs guided the hands that carved these towering monuments in one of the harshest environments on Earth? As the kingdom's power grew, so did the mystery surrounding its decline. By the 2nd century AD, the Nabateans had vanished from history, absorbed into the Roman Empire, their cities slowly reclaimed by sand and wind. No battle records mark their end. No epidemic or cataclysm is known to have erased them. It is as though the builders of Mada'in Saleh simply faded away, leaving behind their empty tombs as the only witnesses to their passing. In recent decades, new technologies, satellite imaging, ground radar, 3D scanning, have begun to peel back the layers of the site. Beneath the surface, archaeologists have found traces of gardens, wells, and irrigation systems, signs that life once thrived here, sustained by a mastery of desert water management that still astonishes engineers today. The Nabateans turned the impossible into the practical, transforming an arid wilderness into a living city. Yet, even with this knowledge, the mystery of their sudden disappearance remains unsolved. Some researchers suggest that climate change or shifting trade routes led to the city's abandonment. Others believe it was a gradual cultural transformation, assimilation rather than collapse. But the deeper questions remain untouched. Who first settled this place? and why here, in a landscape so unforgiving? Local legends, passed down for generations, add another layer to the mystery. The Quran speaks of a people called the Thamud, who carved homes into rock and defied divine warnings, only to be destroyed by a great calamity. For many, Mada'in Saleh is believed to be their city, cursed and left deserted as a reminder of hubris and divine wrath. The connection between the Thamud and the Nabateans remains debated, yet the power of the story endures, lending the ruins an aura of sacred silence. More speculative theories go further still. Some claim that the precision of the carvings hints at lost technology, tools or techniques far beyond what we associate with the 1st century. Others see in the tomb's symmetry and alignment evidence of an ancient science of proportion, geometry, or even vibration, echoes of a knowledge long forgotten. As dusk settles, the desert grows still. The carved facades take on an almost ethereal glow, their smooth faces catching the last red light of the sun. The silence here is profound, an ancient kind of quiet that seems to listen as much as it waits. Who were the people who built this city of stone and shadow? What compelled them to carve monuments of such scale and beauty in the heart of the desert? And why, after centuries of flourishing, did they leave without a trace? The winds of Mada'in Saleh whisper through its hollow chambers, carrying questions older than history itself. The stones remain, their faces serene, their meaning still half buried beneath the sands of time. Far out in the western Pacific Ocean, where the sea glows turquoise and the horizon stretches unbroken, lies a place unlike any other on Earth. Hidden among the mangroves and coral reefs of Pohnpei Island in Micronesia, a city of stone rises from the water, its black basalt walls glistening with salt and moss. Canals flow where streets should be, dividing the ruins into a labyrinth of artificial islets. Locals call it Nan Madol, the city of ghosts. From above, the site looks almost impossible, more than 90 man-made islands connected by narrow waterways, their walls built from enormous hexagonal columns of volcanic rock. Some of these basalt logs weigh as much as 50 tons. They were stacked like timber, forming fortifications, temples, and ceremonial platforms that still stand after 1,000 years of storms and tides. The construction is so massive, so deliberate, that even modern engineers have struggled to explain how it was achieved, especially given that the island's terrain and technology offered no cranes, pulleys, or beasts of burden. Archaeologists date Nan Madol's construction to between the 12th and 13th centuries AD, crediting it to the Saudalur dynasty, a centralized kingdom that ruled the island before European contact. The Saudalur are said to have built the city as their royal and religious capital, a place of power and isolation, where nobles and priests could live apart from the common people. Historical records from later oral traditions describe the rulers as semi-divine beings, believed to have descended from the gods, who governed through ritual and fear. But the deeper question lingers. How did they build it? The basalt used in Nan Madol was quarried miles away, across rugged terrain and dense forest. No written record survives to explain how the stones were transported across land and sea. Some theories suggest that the builders floated them on rafts or rolled them on palm trunks, though no evidence of such methods has been found. Others claim they may have exploited tidal flows or even used sound or magnetism to move the stones, an idea drawn more from myth than archaeology, yet still repeated in whispers among those who visit the site. According to Pohnpeian legend, Nan Madol was founded by twin sorcerers, Olosopa and Olosipa, who arrived from a distant land and used magic to levitate the basalt into place. When their reign ended, the Saudalur rulers took control, establishing an empire that would last for centuries. The myths speak of divine power, tyranny, and eventual downfall, of a dynasty that grew so arrogant that the gods themselves intervened to bring it down. The ruins, locals say, remain haunted by the spirits of those who once ruled and those who perished under their command. To the modern eye, Nan Madol is a paradox. A city built on coral reefs in the middle of the ocean, constructed from materials that seem impossible to transport with the means available at the time. It has been called the Venice of the Pacific, but unlike Venice, Nan Madol was not built for commerce. There are no marketplaces, no signs of domestic life. Instead, the ruins suggest ritual purpose, a place of initiation, ceremony, and sacrifice. Excavations have uncovered human remains, shell ornaments, and fragments of tools, but little else to reveal the daily rhythm of life in this watery city. Was Nan Madol a sacred complex, a royal fortress, or something even more enigmatic, a symbolic recreation of the cosmos itself, built to mirror celestial order? Some scholars have suggested that its layout, with radiating canals and aligned structures, may reflect astronomical patterns. Others see in it an early example of political engineering, a physical separation of power from the people, enforced by geography and architecture. And then, there are those who see Nan Madol as a remnant of something far older. Fringe theorists have linked it to the legend of Lemuria, or Mu, a supposed lost continent swallowed by the sea. They imagine Nan Madol as one of its last surviving outposts, built by a forgotten civilization whose knowledge vanished long before recorded history began. Such ideas remain speculative, yet the site's strangeness keeps them alive in the imagination. Today, the ruins are quiet. The tides flow softly through their canals, brushing against stone walls that have stood for nearly a millennium. The jungle presses in, reclaiming what once belonged to the ocean. In the fading light, the black basalt glows with a faint, spectral sheen, as though the city itself remembers what the world has forgotten. Who were the true builders of Nan Madol? How did they move mountains of stone to create a floating fortress in the heart of the Pacific? And what purpose, lost now to myth and time, drove them to carve a kingdom from the sea? The waves murmur through the ruins, carrying the same question out across the endless horizon, waiting perhaps for an answer that has not yet been found. As the landscape of Zhejiang province unfolds in gentle waves of green hills and winding rivers, the small village of Xi'an seems an unlikely setting for one of the world's most baffling architectural enigmas. Yet beneath its quiet fields lies a hidden realm, a vast labyrinth of hand-carved chambers untouched by sunlight for over 2,000 years. This is the mystery of the Longyou Caves. Discovered by chance in 1992 when a local farmer drained what was believed to be a simple pond, the caves revealed themselves as something altogether extraordinary, an immense network of underground halls, each one meticulously chiseled from solid siltstone. The surfaces bear a distinctive pattern of parallel lines, thousands of uniform marks carved by hand with astonishing precision. These grooves cover every wall, pillar, and ceiling, as though the ancient builders had left behind an intentional, almost ritual texture. So far, 24 such chambers have been found, though only a handful have been fully explored. Each one is enormous, some spanning nearly 1,000 square meters, with ceilings rising over 30 feet high. Yet despite their size and complexity, no debris, tools, or records have ever been discovered. No text, no carving, no artifact tells us who built them, why they were created, or how the feat was accomplished. To carve even a single chamber would have required the removal of thousands of cubic meters of rock, an engineering project so massive that it rivals monumental works of the ancient world. And yet, there is not a single mention of the caves in any known Chinese chronicle, not even in the meticulous historical records of the Qin or Han dynasties. How could a construction effort of such scale have left no trace in written history? Archaeologists have attempted to answer this question through geological and stylistic study. The rock-cut walls suggest that the caves were shaped using iron tools, dating their creation to at least 2,000 years ago, perhaps around the time of the Warring States period. But even this estimate raises further questions. Why would people of that era devote such effort to a project hidden from view with no apparent practical function? Some researchers propose that the Longyou Caves were ancient granaries or water reservoirs, later abandoned when their purpose was lost. Others suggest they may have been tombs, though no human remains or funerary objects have been found. Their design, with high vaulted ceilings and precise geometric shapes, seems to defy the typical function of burial sites. There is also an eerie absence of soot. If torches were used to illuminate the chambers during excavation, one would expect traces of smoke on the ceilings, but the stone remains clean, suggesting either extraordinary ventilation or an unknown source of light. Beyond the academic explanations, speculation grows bolder. Some have proposed that the caves might have served as a ceremonial or astronomical complex, perhaps aligned with celestial events now forgotten. Others imagine them as sanctuaries, hidden repositories of knowledge or power, built to outlast the surface world. And still others see them as something even older, remnants of a lost civilization that predated recorded Chinese history, erased by time and legend alike. Local folklore offers its own interpretation. Villagers speak of bottomless waters that once covered the area, mystic pools that concealed gateways to another world. When the caves were first drained, elders warned that disturbing them might awaken something long dormant beneath the earth. To this day, many locals avoid entering the caves, believing they are sacred or cursed. Even the meticulous craftsmanship deepens the enigma. Every surface inside each chamber follows the same aesthetic logic, as if guided by a single design principle, executed with consistency over a vast area. Were these marks purely decorative, or could they hold symbolic meaning, a code perhaps embedded in the stone? Some researchers have noted similarities between the Longyou markings and patterns found on ancient Chinese pottery and jade, though no definitive link has been established. What purpose could justify such effort, such silence, and such perfection? Standing within one of these subterranean halls, surrounded by walls of stone that bear the weight of millennia, the air feels thick with unanswered questions. The flicker of artificial light reveals the chisel marks in rhythmic patterns, and for a moment, it's easy to imagine the glow of ancient torches, the sound of hammers echoing in the depths. Yet those workers, their tools, and their reasons, all are gone, leaving only a vast emptiness that seems to breathe with its own quiet mystery. Perhaps the Longyou Caves were never meant to be understood, only rediscovered. Their silence endures like a message from another age, waiting for someone, someday, to listen closely enough to hear what the stone has been trying to say. What knowledge lies hidden beneath the soil of Zhejiang, still untouched by modern hands? And were these caverns a monument to human ambition, or something far older, built for reasons the world has yet to remember? As the mist rises from the dense jungles of the Andes and drifts through the jagged peaks, a city of stone slowly reveals itself, perched high above the Urubamba River, suspended between earth and sky. Machu Picchu. Even now, more than 5 centuries after its abandonment, it seems less like something built and more like something that simply emerged. An ancient vision of order and grace woven into the wild green mountains of Peru. Terraces cascade down the slopes like steps carved for giants. Walls of perfectly fitted granite stones rise in silence, their joints so precise that not even a blade of grass can slip between them. In the thin air, where clouds cling to the ridges and condors glide on invisible currents, the ruins exude an almost spiritual calm, a stillness that feels deliberate, as though the city itself is holding its breath. Mainstream archaeology tells us that Machu Picchu was built in the mid-1400s under the rule of the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, likely as a royal retreat or ceremonial estate. It was a masterpiece of engineering and design, an achievement of symmetry and harmony between humanity and nature. Every stone was shaped and placed with purpose, aligning with celestial events, water channels, and the sacred geometry of the surrounding peaks. Yet for all its architectural brilliance, Machu Picchu leaves behind more questions than answers. Why was it built in such an inaccessible location, nestled 2,400 meters above sea level, hidden among cliffs and clouds? And if it was an imperial retreat, why was it abandoned so soon, and in such secrecy, that the Spanish conquerors who scoured the Andes never found it? When American explorer Hiram Bingham stumbled upon the site in 1911, it had already been reclaimed by the jungle, shrouded in moss and myth. He believed he had found Vilcabamba, the last refuge of the Inca kings, but later evidence suggested otherwise. The true identity and purpose of Machu Picchu remain uncertain, and its silence has only deepened the fascination surrounding it. Archaeological studies have revealed clues: agricultural terraces that produced crops year-round, aqueducts that carried mountain water through the city with astonishing efficiency, temples and shrines aligned with solstices and equinoxes. The Temple of the Sun, for instance, catches the morning light precisely at the winter solstice, while the Intihuatana stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, seems to have served as an astronomical marker. But even these details only hint at a deeper layer of meaning. Many of the structures at Machu Picchu show a sensitivity to the land that feels almost intuitive, as if the builders sought not to dominate nature, but to communicate with it. The city's orientation matches sacred peaks, opus, believed by the Inca to be living mountain spirits. Was Machu Picchu a place of royal retreat, or a site of cosmic alignment, a bridge between the human and the divine? Some researchers believe it was a kind of open-air observatory, a center for astronomical and agricultural study. Others see it as a sanctuary for priestesses, perhaps a hidden refuge of spiritual power. The lack of written Inca records only adds to the enigma. Everything we know about the site comes from its stones, their angles, alignments, and silent precision. Beyond mainstream archaeology, more speculative theories have emerged. A few suggest that the precision of its stonework indicates a technology beyond what is traditionally attributed to the Inca, perhaps an inheritance from an earlier lost civilization. Others imagine that Machu Picchu served as an energy center, a place where geomagnetic forces converge in patterns still poorly understood. There are even those who whisper of celestial connections, that its layout, viewed from above, mirrors the constellation of the Southern Cross. Such ideas remain unproven, yet they capture something undeniable about the site's presence. Machu Picchu seems to hum with a kind of resonance, a quiet frequency that invites contemplation. To stand there, high among the clouds, is to feel both awe and humility, as though one has entered a threshold between worlds. Even modern science has not unraveled every detail of its construction. How did workers transport and lift multi-ton granite blocks with such precision on steep, narrow ridges without the use of iron tools, the wheel, or mortar? How did they engineer the city's foundations to withstand centuries of earthquakes and rain without collapse? Each answer seems to lead only to deeper questions. At sunrise, when light spills through the mountain pass and illuminates the ancient stones, the city comes alive again. Its terraces glowing gold, its walls casting long shadows that stretch toward the sacred peaks. In those moments, it feels as if the builders have only just stepped away leaving their creation suspended in time. Was Machu Picchu merely the crown jewel of the Inca Empire, or a message from something older, encoded in stone and sky? Perhaps the city's true purpose was never meant to be written, only felt. Its mystery endures not in what we can explain, but in what still escapes us. The echo of a civilization that seemed to understand the rhythm of the earth in ways we have long since forgotten. As the morning sun rises over the Valley of Mexico, light spills across an ancient landscape that feels frozen in time. Stone avenues stretch toward the horizon, flanked by weathered pyramids that pierce the sky. The air carries a stillness so profound that it seems to hold the breath of history itself. This is Teotihuacan, the city of the gods. Long before the rise of the Aztec Empire, long before the chronicles of conquest, this city was already ancient. From above, it unfolds with geometric precision, a vast, planned metropolis spanning more than 20 square kilometers. The central avenue, known today as the Avenue of the Dead, runs straight as an arrow through the heart of the city, linking its three great monuments: the Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the Sun, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Together, they form one of the most awe-inspiring archaeological sites in the world, and one of its greatest mysteries. No one knows who built Teotihuacan. By the time the Aztecs arrived in the region around the 14th century, the city had already been abandoned for over 1,000 years. They named it Teotihuacan, meaning the place where gods were born, believing it was here that the deities had gathered to create the world. But the true builders, their names, language, and culture remain lost to time. Archaeological evidence suggests that construction began around the 1st century AD. At its peak, the city may have been home to more than 100,000 people, making it one of the largest urban centers of the ancient world, comparable in size to Imperial Rome. Its architecture reveals extraordinary skill. Massive pyramids precisely aligned to celestial movements, residential compounds built in perfect symmetry, and an underground network of tunnels and chambers whose purpose is still debated. The Pyramid of the Sun dominates the cityscape. Rising nearly 70 meters high, it stands as one of the largest structures ever built in the pre-Columbian Americas. Beneath its base, archaeologists discovered a man-made cave leading to a series of chambers, perhaps a symbolic womb of creation or a ceremonial portal between the worlds of gods and men. Nearby, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent is adorned with hundreds of sculpted heads, representations of serpents, jaguars, and sacred deities. Excavations there revealed something darker: the remains of more than 200 human sacrifices buried beneath its steps. What kind of civilization created this city, and what force caused it to vanish so suddenly? Mainstream historians describe Teotihuacan as the product of a powerful multi-ethnic society, a center of trade, religion, and astronomy. Yet even within this explanation, many details refuse to fit neatly into place. The city's strict alignment, 15.5 degrees east of north, appears deliberate, as though designed to track specific celestial events. The Pyramid of the Sun, for example, aligns almost perfectly with the setting sun on certain days of the year. Was this an early calendar system, a spiritual map, or something else entirely? Recent discoveries have deepened the mystery. In 2003, archaeologists uncovered a hidden tunnel beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Inside were thousands of offerings: jade, seashells, carved figures, and pools of liquid mercury. Mercury, a substance rare and highly toxic, was perhaps used to symbolize an underworld river. But to what end? Was it ritual, science, or an echo of beliefs now forgotten? Some researchers suggest that Teotihuacan's builders possessed an advanced understanding of astronomy, geometry, and acoustics. The layout of its pyramids, they note, appears to mirror the arrangement of planets or stars, particularly Orion's belt, much like the pyramids of Giza half a world away. Others point to the city's use of mica, a mineral found in certain structures, which may have had unknown technological or symbolic functions. Beyond the archaeological evidence, more speculative theories arise. Could Teotihuacan have served as an ancient energy complex designed to harness telluric or cosmic forces? Was it the seat of a forgotten civilization, one that passed down fragments of knowledge to later cultures across the Americas? Or was it simply a reflection of the human impulse to reach upward, to connect earth and sky, matter and spirit? In the end, even the city's demise adds to its mystique. Around the 7th century, Teotihuacan burned. Palaces were destroyed, temples looted, and the population scattered. Some believe it was the result of internal rebellion. Others suspect famine or drought. Whatever the cause, the city that once stood as the heart of Mesoamerica was left in ruins, its gods silenced, its purpose erased. Yet Teotihuacan endures. Each year, thousands climb the Pyramid of the Sun, standing where ancient priests once watched the heavens. The wind whispers across the stones, carrying the same question that has haunted this place for centuries. Who built the city of the gods, and what truth lies buried beneath its sacred avenues? Perhaps the answers still sleep beneath the volcanic earth, waiting, like the city itself, to awaken once more. As the rainforests of southern Costa Rica awaken beneath the weight of the morning mist, a strange and silent geometry emerges from the green, perfectly round stones scattered across the landscape. Some lie half buried in the earth. Others rest proudly in open fields, weathered by time and rain. They range in size from small orbs that fit easily in the hands to massive spheres over 2 meters wide, each one almost impossibly smooth, as if sculpted by something far more deliberate than chance. These are the stone spheres of Costa Rica, known locally as Las Bolas. Hundreds have been found across the Diquís Delta and the surrounding valleys, their presence so quiet and unassuming that one could mistake them for natural formations. But they are not natural. They were carved, and no one knows for certain why. The story of their discovery began in the 1930s, when workers clearing the jungle for banana plantations stumbled upon dozens of these spheres embedded in the soil. As they dug them out, they noticed something strange. Many were aligned in precise patterns, forming straight lines, triangles, and even clusters that seemed to correspond to celestial events. But before anyone could properly study them, many spheres were rolled away, destroyed, or broken open in the search for rumored treasures inside. What remained, however, was enough to spark one of the great archaeological mysteries of the Americas. Dating techniques and associated pottery fragments suggest the spheres were made between 600 and 1000 AD, crafted by the Diquís culture, an ancient civilization that flourished in this region long before the arrival of Europeans. The Diquís left behind few written or oral records, but they clearly possessed remarkable skill. Each sphere is made from local stone, granodiorite, limestone, or sandstone, carved and polished to near-perfect symmetry using tools of stone and sand. Some weigh over 15 tons. But the mystery is not simply how they were made. It's why. Archaeologists have proposed that the spheres served ceremonial or social functions, perhaps as symbols of status or markers of power. Some believe they once lined the pathways to houses of chiefs, representing cosmic order or territorial boundaries. Others see them as astronomical instruments, placed to map the movements of the sun and stars across the seasons. And yet, despite decades of research, no definitive explanation has emerged. There are no inscriptions, no carvings, no clear patterns that link them to religious iconography or burial sites. The Dikis people vanished centuries ago, leaving the spheres as the only enduring trace of their worldview. What kind of society invests such immense effort into shaping stone into perfect spheres, objects with no apparent practical use? The precision of the spheres is another enduring puzzle. Many are so flawlessly round that modern engineers have compared their symmetry to that of machine-made objects. To achieve such accuracy without metal tools or measuring instruments would have required extraordinary patience and knowledge of geometry. Some spheres appear to have been carved from single boulders and then transported across kilometers of dense jungle and rivers, an effort demanding coordination and purpose far beyond what simple artistry would suggest. Beyond academic study, speculation has wandered into the more mysterious. Some propose that the spheres are remnants of a lost civilization, perhaps connected to other megalithic traditions across the world. Others imagine they served as astronomical markers, aligning with star systems or equinoxes now forgotten. A few fringe theories even suggest extraterrestrial influence, seeing in their precision a kind of perfection beyond human capability. While such ideas remain unverified, they reflect a truth about these enigmatic stones. Their mystery invites interpretation. Like silent witnesses to a vanished world, they seem to resist explanation, holding their meaning just beyond reach. In recent years, advances in mapping and archaeology have begun to restore some context. Satellite imagery shows that many spheres were originally placed near mounds, plazas, and causeways, indicating a structured landscape, possibly reflecting cosmological or political order. The alignments suggest that the Dikis understood spatial relationships on a scale far larger than previously believed. Yet even with these insights, the deeper question persists. What concept of the world, what cosmology, did these perfect stones embody? Today, the spheres rest in museums and protected sites, their surfaces worn but still smooth to the touch. Visitors often describe a sense of calm around them, as if the stones themselves radiate balance, a quiet power shaped not just from the earth, but from an ancient idea of harmony between human hands and natural perfection. And so they remain, scattered across the land like forgotten stars, reminders of a civilization whose voice has faded, but whose artistry endures in the silence of stone. Were these spheres mere symbols of power and prestige, or were they messages, encoded in geometry, left behind by people who once saw the world in ways we no longer can? Somewhere in their perfect curves may lie the shape of a lost understanding, still waiting to be uncovered beneath the soil of Costa Rica. The camera drifts over the sunburnt plains of southeastern Turkey, near the ancient city of Şanlıurfa, where rolling hills rise from the horizon like gentle waves of earth. Among them, a modest mound stands out, not for its height, but for its age. Beneath this unassuming hill lies one of humanity's most extraordinary and bewildering creations, Göbekli Tepe. The name means Potbelly Hill, a humble title for a site that has rewritten the story of civilization. From above, the dig reveals a series of circular enclosures, each formed from massive limestone pillars arranged with deliberate precision. The stones are smooth, monolithic, some weighing over 20 tons, carved with haunting reliefs of animals, foxes, snakes, vultures, boars, etched into their surfaces with an artistry that seems far beyond their time. Archaeologists date Göbekli Tepe to around 9,600 BC, more than 7,000 years before the pyramids of Egypt, and long before the advent of writing, metal tools, or even organized farming. According to conventional timelines, humanity at that point was still nomadic, living in small bands of hunter-gatherers. Yet here, on this remote Anatolian hill, people gathered to build megalithic sanctuaries on a monumental scale. Who were these builders, and how did they accomplish such a feat with only stone tools and sheer determination? Each pillar at Göbekli Tepe is shaped like a T, stylized representations of human figures with broad shoulders and folded hands etched near their bases. The carvings suggest that these were not mere architectural supports. They were symbolic, perhaps divine. The entire site radiates a sense of sacred geometry, its circles and alignments hinting at ritual purpose. Yet no one knows precisely what those rituals were. Unlike the later temples of Sumer or Egypt, Göbekli Tepe shows no sign of habitation, no hearths, no domestic remains. It appears to have been a place built purely for ceremony. Some researchers believe it was a site of pilgrimage, a gathering point for ancient peoples to celebrate, mourn, or commune with unseen powers. Others see it as the world's first temple, a physical manifestation of humanity's awakening spirituality. But there is something even stranger about this place. Around 8000 BC, after centuries of use, the site was deliberately buried. The towering pillars were packed with layers of soil, rubble, and broken stone, entombing them completely. It was not erosion or the slow creep of time. It was intentional. Someone, or some group, decided that Göbekli Tepe must be hidden. Why? One theory suggests it was part of a ritual closure, that the people who built it believed the time of the gods had ended. Another proposes a more practical reason, the coming of agriculture. As nearby communities began to settle and farm, their world shifted from spiritual to practical concerns, and the hill that once drew thousands was sealed away, forgotten beneath the earth. Yet other voices whisper of deeper mysteries. Some fringe researchers suggest that Göbekli Tepe's builders inherited lost knowledge from an even earlier culture, perhaps survivors of a cataclysm at the end of the last ice age. The alignment of certain pillars has been interpreted as astronomical, marking solstices or the rising of specific constellations like Orion or Sirius. Could it be that Göbekli Tepe served as an observatory, a celestial map linking Earth and sky? Others have speculated that it encodes a memory of global disaster, etched in symbols of animals and cosmic forces that recount the trauma of a vanished world. These interpretations remain unproven, yet they add another layer to the site's enigma, the sense that these stones speak in a language we no longer understand. When modern archaeologists first uncovered Göbekli Tepe in the 1990s, they were forced to reconsider what it meant to be civilized. The discovery implied that complex religion, organized labor, and symbolic thought may have preceded agriculture, not followed it. In other words, it was belief, not farming, that first bound humans together. As the camera pans across the excavated circles, sunlight catches the edges of the carved figures, their ancient eyes staring back through 12,000 years of silence. The wind moves softly through the dry grass, carrying whispers of a forgotten age. Did these stones mark the dawn of human consciousness, or the twilight of an even older world? Beneath the surface of Göbekli Tepe, countless pillars remain unexcavated, still buried in layers of time. Each one may hold another piece of a story that predates history itself. And so, the question lingers: what lies beneath the next circle, waiting for light after 12 millennia in the dark? High in the windswept plains of the Bolivian Altiplano, more than 12,000 feet above sea level, lies a place that seems to defy both geography and time. Here, where the air is thin and the horizon stretches endlessly beneath a cold blue sky, the ruins of Tiwanaku emerge from the earth like the fragmented bones of a lost civilization. Enormous stone blocks, some weighing hundreds of tons, are scattered across a desolate landscape, a silent reminder that something extraordinary once happened here. At the heart of the site stands the Akapana Pyramid, now weathered and eroded, but once a grand, terraced platform rising above the plain. To its west lies the Kalasasaya, a vast ceremonial courtyard framed by towering monoliths and precision-cut walls. Nearby rests the enigmatic Gateway of the Sun, a single block of andesite carved with intricate reliefs depicting a godlike figure surrounded by symbols whose meaning remains elusive. Even in ruin, Tiwanaku feels deliberate, mathematical, almost otherworldly in its precision. Archaeologists believe the city reached its height around 500 AD, centuries before the Inca Empire rose to power. It was the center of a culture that spanned much of the Andean highlands, influencing art, religion, and architecture across the region. But unlike the Incas, the people of Tiwanaku left no written record. Their story must be told through stone, pottery, and myth. Conventional research suggests that Tiwanaku was a ceremonial hub, a place of pilgrimage and political power. The massive stones, some quarried from sites more than 10 miles away, were transported by means still debated. Without the wheel, without beasts of burden suitable for the task, how did these early Andean builders move and fit blocks so precisely that even a knife blade cannot slip between them? Some scholars point to the ingenuity of coordinated human effort, rollers, and ramps. Others, however, question whether those explanations fully account for the scale of what remains. The geometric cuts, perfect right angles, and polished surfaces seem to echo techniques not seen again until modern times. Could the builders have possessed tools or knowledge lost to history? One of Tiwanaku's most fascinating features lies nearby, at a site called Puma Punku. There, colossal stone slabs are arranged in shattered disarray, as if tossed aside by a powerful force. Each piece bears evidence of intricate machining, grooves, drill holes, and interlocking joints so precise they resemble components of a vast, dismantled machine. Some of these blocks weigh more than a Boeing 747. Traditional archaeologists maintain that such craftsmanship was achieved using simple copper tools, sand abrasives, and time. Yet the stones themselves tell a subtler story, one that invites doubt. Could a pre-industrial society, without metal harder than bronze, have produced such flawless surfaces? The myths surrounding Tiwanaku add another layer of mystery. According to local legend, this was the place where the creator god Viracocha emerged from the waters of Lake Titicaca to bring life and civilization to the world. He is said to have fashioned the first humans from stone before disappearing across the sea. To the Andean peoples, Tiwanaku was not just a city, it was the birthplace of the gods. Modern researchers have long noted the site's unusual alignments. The Kailasa's walls are oriented to mark the solstices, suggesting an advanced understanding of astronomy. Some believe the structures were part of a vast observatory designed to track the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Others take this further, claiming the site encodes celestial knowledge far older than its accepted age. When early explorers measured the astronomical positions of Tiwanaku's monuments, some proposed that the alignments only made sense if the site dated back to around 15,000 BC, an era when glaciers still dominated the Andes. Mainstream archaeology disputes this, placing the city's origin closer to 1500 BC. But even so, questions linger. Why build such monumental structures in a place so inhospitable, so remote? And how did the culture that created it vanish so completely? By the time the Inca arrived, Tiwanaku was already ancient, its temples broken, its gods forgotten. The people who built it had disappeared, leaving behind a city whose very stones seemed to whisper of an age before memory. As the sun sets behind the Andean peaks, shadows stretch across the weathered monoliths. The gateway of the sun catches the last golden light, its carved figure staring out over the plain, unchanged for millennia. Was Tiwanaku merely the culmination of human ingenuity, or a remnant of something far older, a chapter of civilization erased by time? Beneath its windswept soil, more secrets await, sealed in silence, waiting for those who still listen to the echoes of the forgotten world. As the landscape of southern Ohio stretches into rolling hills and quiet valleys, one formation stands apart. Neither mountain nor ruin, but something far older and far stranger. Resting on a plateau above the Brush Creek Valley, the Great Serpent Mound winds its way across the earth in silent grace. From above, its form is unmistakable, a massive serpent uncoiling through the grass, its body curving in rhythmic waves before ending in a coiled spiral. Its head, broad and triangular, appears to devour or cradle an oval shape, perhaps an egg, the sun, or something else entirely. At ground level, it's difficult to perceive the serpent's full design. The ancient mound rises only a few feet above the soil, yet when viewed from the air, its enormity becomes clear. The serpent stretches over 1,300 feet in length. Its body seems to flow with the contours of the landscape itself, aligned with the surrounding ridges and valleys as though it were part of the living earth. Archaeologists have long debated its origin. Some date the mound to around 300 BC, crediting it to the Adena culture, a group of early mound builders known for their earthen burial sites scattered throughout the Ohio Valley. Others argue it belongs to the later Fort Ancient culture, around 1000 AD, based on nearby artifacts. Radiocarbon dating of charcoal samples has only deepened the uncertainty, suggesting multiple phases of construction or ritual use. Whoever built it, the Serpent Mound was not a random creation. Its design shows deliberate planning and astronomical awareness. The serpent's head aligns with the setting sun on the summer solstice, while its coils seem to correspond with lunar and solar events throughout the year. To some researchers, this suggests it served as a vast calendar, an ancient observatory where the cycles of the heavens were tracked in harmony with the earth. But was it only a calendar? The serpent motif itself carries deep symbolic weight. Across ancient cultures, serpents have represented both creation and destruction, wisdom and chaos, life and death. In Native American traditions, the snake is often seen as a guardian of the underworld, a mediator between realms. The egg-shaped feature before its open jaws could symbolize renewal, the eternal cycle of life emerging from death. Yet, for all the possible interpretations, none fully explain the mound's purpose or its enduring magnetism. Some scholars suggest it may have marked a sacred site used for rituals connected to fertility or cosmology. Others believe it was a place of pilgrimage, a ceremonial gathering point for surrounding communities. Still, there are those who see the Great Serpent as something more, a monument not just to human devotion, but to knowledge we no longer understand. Its placement adds to the intrigue. The mound sits atop a geological anomaly known as the Serpent Mound Crater, a circular formation thought to have been created by a meteor impact millions of years ago. The coincidence is striking, an ancient symbol of cosmic power built directly above a scar from a celestial event. Could the builders have been aware of the land's strange history? Or was their choice of location a reflection of forces they sensed rather than scientifically knew? Over the years, alternative theories have multiplied. Some have speculated that the mound encodes lost knowledge of the heavens, an ancient star map, or even a record of a catastrophic event witnessed in prehistoric times. Others claim it could represent a comet or serpent-like celestial body streaking across the sky. And in the more imaginative corners of speculation, a few suggest the site marks an energy vortex, a convergence point between worlds. Despite such conjecture, one fact remains clear. Whoever built the Serpent Mound possessed a profound understanding of their environment. Its curves follow the natural contours of the ridge with mathematical precision, suggesting a deep awareness of geometry and landscape design. The builders shaped the earth itself into a living form, a creature that seems to breathe with the rhythm of the land and sky. Today, standing at the serpent's head, one feels a quiet tension, a presence that hums beneath the surface. The mound is silent, but not lifeless. It watches, coiled in patience, as centuries pass like seasons. Was it the work of astronomers, shamans, or artists trying to speak to the cosmos in the only language they knew? Stone, soil, and time? Was it a warning, a prayer, or a remembrance of something the builders once witnessed in the heavens? The answers, if they exist, are buried in the same earth that shapes the serpent's body. And as the light fades over the Ohio hills, the Great Serpent Mound remains as it has for millennia, unmoving, unreadable, and endlessly waiting to be understood. As the winds sweep across the rugged shores of Scotland's Orkney Islands, they carry with them the scent of salt and seaweed, and whispers of a civilization long vanished. On a bluff overlooking the Bay of Scale lies one of the most remarkable prehistoric sites in Europe, Skara Brae. Buried for thousands of years beneath layers of sand and time, it was uncovered only by chance, when a powerful storm in the winter of 1850 tore across the coastline and stripped away the earth to reveal an entire village, almost perfectly preserved. What emerged was unlike anything archaeologists had ever seen. Stone houses connected by narrow covered passageways, hearths blackened by ancient fires, beds, dressers, and storage spaces carved directly from slabs of local stone, all intact, as if the villagers had stepped out only moments before the storm returned to seal their world once more. Dating back to around 3100 BC, Skara Brae is older than the Great Pyramids of Giza, older even than Stonehenge. It represents a window into the Neolithic mind, a time when farming communities thrived along these northern coasts. Yet what makes Skara Brae truly extraordinary is not just its age, but its sophistication. The village displays a level of design and planning unexpected for its time, homes built partially underground to insulate against the cold, with stone furniture arranged almost identically in each dwelling, as though following an established architectural blueprint. Inside, archaeologists found the remains of daily life frozen in time, ornaments of bone and ivory, pottery, tools, and mysterious carved stones marked with spirals, crosses, and abstract symbols. These patterns, simple yet deliberate, hint at a symbolic language or belief system that remains undeciphered. Who were these people who built so well, who lived in harmony with their harsh surroundings, and then simply disappeared? Mainstream archaeology tells a practical story. Skara Brae was likely home to around 50 to 100 inhabitants, farmers, herders, and fishermen who relied on the surrounding sea and fertile land. For centuries they lived here, sheltered from the winds in their skillfully built stone dwellings. Then, around 2500 BC, something changed. The sea began to encroach upon the land. The climate grew colder and wetter. Perhaps a great storm or rising tides made the site uninhabitable. Slowly, the people of Skara Brae abandoned their homes, leaving behind their tools, jewelry, and memories to the shifting sands. Yet, not all agree this is the full story. Some researchers note that Skara Brae's level of preservation suggests a sudden, perhaps catastrophic event. Others point to the absence of human remains. No burials, no bones, raising questions about where the inhabitants went and why they left so abruptly. Did they migrate inland? Were they part of a larger culture that vanished across the islands? Or did the sea, which had once sustained them, ultimately consume them? There are also the carvings, enigmatic markings that bear a faint resemblance to those found at other Neolithic sites across Britain and even in parts of continental Europe. Were these symbols part of a shared spiritual network, a code linking distant communities long before the rise of recorded history? And what of the uncanny uniformity of the houses themselves? Each dwelling seems almost identical in layout and design, suggesting not only communal planning but a deeper cultural or ritual significance to their architecture. Was this symmetry purely functional or symbolic, reflecting a worldview where order, balance, and repetition mirrored cosmic or spiritual beliefs? A few fringe interpretations have gone further, suggesting that Skara Brae's design implies knowledge beyond its time. The drainage systems, the polished stone furniture, even the alignment of certain structures. These, some claim, indicate influences from more advanced societies, or perhaps connections with lost civilizations whose memory has faded from human record. The truth is, the site guards its secrets well. Each new excavation yields clues, animal bones, beads, fragments of tools, but none that fully explain the enigma of Skara Brae. Its people remain nameless, its language unknown, its end unresolved. As the tide laps against the stones and the northern wind howls across the bay, the village sits in silence, a relic from a world that once was. The sea that revealed it still threatens to reclaim it, inch by inch, wave by wave. Was Skara Brae simply a farming settlement erased by climate and time? Or was it part of a greater chapter of human history we have yet to uncover? Beneath the cold stones and drifting sands, one cannot help but feel that the village still watches, still remembers. It stands as a whisper from deep prehistory, a reminder that even the smallest of places can hold the greatest of mysteries, waiting patiently for someone to listen. As the last light of day fades behind the jagged ridges of Northern California, Mount Shasta rises from the earth like a dream made solid, its snow-capped summit glowing faintly against the darkening sky. To some, it is merely a mountain, an ancient stratovolcano born from the restless forces beneath the Pacific Plate. But to others, it is something far more, a place of legend, mystery, and whispers that reach deep into both the geological and the spiritual past. Beneath its vast slopes lies a labyrinth of caverns, hidden chambers carved by the patient hand of water and time. Known today as the Mount Shasta Caverns, these subterranean halls glisten with mineral veins, their ceilings hung with stalactites that seem to drip light when caught by a lantern's beam. But beyond their natural beauty lies an aura of intrigue, for Mount Shasta has long been a center of stories that blur the boundary between the earthly and the otherworldly. The caverns were officially rediscovered in 1878 by a fisherman named James J. Fuller, who followed an opening along the McCloud River and stumbled into a network of limestone chambers. Inside, he found what looked like an untouched world, echoing chambers, strange acoustics, and the marks of water that had shaped the rock for countless millennia. But the local native tribes had known of these caves long before Fuller ever set foot there. To them, the mountain was sacred, a place where spirits dwelled and where the veil between worlds was thin. Geologists describe the caverns as part of a larger karst system formed over hundreds of thousands of years. Rainwater, slightly acidic from carbon dioxide in the air, seeped into cracks and slowly dissolved the limestone, creating chambers that now wind deep into the mountain's base. Every stalactite and stalagmite within tells a story of geologic patience, droplet by droplet, century by century. Yet, while science explains their formation, it cannot so easily account for the myths that cling to this place like mist. For centuries, Mount Shasta has stood at the crossroads of folklore and mystery. Indigenous legends speak of beings who dwell within the mountain, guardians or ancestors watching over the land. Some stories tell of the mountain as a portal to a spiritual realm, where only the pure of heart may enter. Others describe great cataclysms of the past, suggesting the mountain once shielded survivors of ancient worlds now lost to time. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, new layers of myth began to form. Writers and mystics claimed that the mountain's caverns were not entirely natural, that deep beneath the surface might lie remnants of a lost civilization. Among these tales, one name echoes again and again: Lemuria. According to esoteric lore, Lemuria was a continent said to have existed in the distant Pacific, a cradle of enlightenment that vanished beneath the sea. Some believers argue that survivors of this cataclysm fled underground, building vast cities beneath Mount Shasta. The caverns, they say, are the remnants or entrances to these subterranean realms. There are even accounts, passed down through decades of retelling, of explorers who vanished while seeking such hidden passages. Of course, mainstream science finds no evidence of Lemurians or ancient cities beneath the volcano's slopes. What researchers do find, however, are curious natural features: unexplored fissures, chambers that seem to hum faintly with air currents, and mineral deposits that reflect light in uncanny ways. To those inclined toward wonder, it's easy to imagine how a flicker of shadow or a strange echo might become the seed of myth. And yet, something about Mount Shasta resists easy dismissal. Even skeptics admit that the mountain exudes an uncanny magnetism. Unexplained lights are sometimes seen over its peaks. Compass readings have been known to fluctuate. The caverns themselves possess a silence so complete it feels alive, a kind of presence that humbles those who enter. Is it merely the power of suggestion, the human mind hungry for meaning, weaving stories from the dark? Or could the mountain's mysteries hint at something deeper, something not yet measured by instruments or recorded in books? Standing within the caverns, the air cool and still, one cannot help but feel the weight of time pressing in from every side. The walls gleam with the memory of water, the ceiling arches like a cathedral of stone, and somewhere, far above, the summit of Mount Shasta pierces the sky. It's a place where geology meets mythology, where science and legend share the same silence. The mountain keeps its secrets well, whether born of earth, imagination, or something in between. And as explorers, scientists, and dreamers continue to return to these caverns, drawn by that same inexplicable pull, one question remains: what truly lies beneath Mount Shasta, mere stone and silence, or a gateway into the hidden heart of the ancient world? Far across the vast blue expanse of the Pacific Ocean, a remote island rises from the waves, lonely, windswept, and shrouded in silence. It is a place where the line between myth and memory blurs, where stone giants gaze eternally toward the horizon as if keeping vigil over forgotten secrets. This is Rapa Nui, better known to the world as Easter Island. The island is small, barely 14 miles long, yet its mystery feels boundless. Scattered across its volcanic slopes and grassy plains stand nearly 900 massive stone figures. The Moai, some towering over 30 feet high, others half buried, their heads alone visible above the soil. Their expressions are solemn, their eyes once inlaid with coral, giving them a haunting, lifelike stare. When the first Europeans arrived in 1722, they were stunned. Who built these statues? And how had an isolated island, more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continent, become home to such monumental art? Archaeologists now know that the Moai were crafted between roughly 1100 and 1600 AD by the island's early Polynesian settlers. Using simple stone tools, they carved these enormous figures from the volcanic tuff of Rano Raraku crater, then somehow transported them across the rugged terrain to their stone platforms, known as Ahu. Each Moai represented an ancestor, a guardian spirit believed to protect the living. But the mystery lies not only in why they were built, but how. The logistics seem impossible. Some statues weigh over 80 tons. No evidence of wheels or beasts of burden exists on the island. Yet somehow, hundreds of these massive figures were moved several miles over hills and valleys. Mainstream theories suggest the builders used ropes and wooden sledges, hauling the statues with manpower and ingenuity. Others propose that the Moai were walked upright, rocked gently from side to side along prepared paths, an idea partly confirmed by modern experiments. But even these explanations leave gaps. How did a small, resource-limited society sustain such enormous projects for centuries? And why were so many statues left unfinished, as if the work had abruptly stopped? The collapse of Rapa Nui's civilization is another layer of the enigma. When the first outsiders arrived, they found a society fractured, trees gone, food scarce, and the Moai toppled from their altars. For decades, scholars believed the islanders had destroyed themselves through deforestation and conflict, a tragic example of ecological collapse. But newer research paints a more nuanced picture. Pollen studies show the landscape may have been more resilient than once thought, and oral traditions speak of outside raids and slave expeditions that devastated the population. Some theories venture further. A few suggest that Easter Island's isolation might not have been as complete as we assume. Ancient legends tell of long-distance voyagers, of foreign visitors arriving in canoes like clouds. Could contact with South America have influenced Rapa Nui's culture and technology? Some linguists have noted striking similarities between certain Rapa Nui and Andean words, while traces of South American plants, such as the sweet potato, appear in Polynesia long before European exploration. Coincidence, or evidence of forgotten transoceanic contact? Then there are the more speculative interpretations. In fringe archaeology, Easter Island is sometimes portrayed as a surviving fragment of a lost civilization, perhaps even a remnant of the fabled Lemuria or Mu, ancient continents said to have sunk beneath the sea. Others see the Moai as celestial markers, aligned with solstices and stars, designed to encode astronomical knowledge. To some, their haunting faces seem less human and more symbolic, echoes of something primordial, something beyond time. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all lies beneath the surface. Excavations have revealed that the Moai are not merely heads, but full-bodied figures, buried neck-deep by centuries of erosion. Their torsos bear intricate carvings, symbols of lineage, power, and perhaps spiritual connection. What else remains hidden beneath the soil? What stories lie locked in the volcanic rock waiting to be read? Today, the Moai continue their silent vigil, their gaze fixed toward the past, or perhaps the future. They are monuments to faith, to human will, and to the fragile balance between creation and collapse. Each one carved from stone, yet somehow alive with mystery. And as the Pacific wind moves through the grasses of Rapa Nui, one can't help but wonder, were these statues the final testament of a society reaching for immortality? Or messages from a civilization whose knowledge the world has long forgotten? Rising from the heart of Sri Lanka's tropical forest, a colossal monolith of reddish stone pierces the canopy like the prow of a ship frozen in time. The air here is heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth and the hum of distant cicadas. Above the emerald sea of trees, the Sigiriya rock fortress, often called the Lion Rock, stands defiant, its summit crowned by the enigmatic ruins of an ancient kingdom. From afar, it appears almost impossible, an isolated block of granite soaring nearly 660 feet into the sky, its vertical walls shimmering under the sun. Yet centuries ago, humans transformed this raw mountain into one of the most extraordinary architectural marvels of the ancient world. Terraces, frescoes, mirrored walls, and hydraulic systems were carved directly into the rock, forming a citadel that blurs the line between nature and human design. According to Sri Lankan chronicles, Sigiriya's story begins in the 5th century AD. It is said that King Kashyapa, driven by ambition and fear, seized the throne after murdering his father. Haunted by guilt and threatened by his brother's rightful claim, he fled to this remote outcrop, turning it into both palace and fortress, a kingdom suspended between heaven and earth. At its base, Kashyapa constructed vast gardens fed by ingenious waterworks that still function today. Pools, fountains, and canals perfectly aligned with the symmetry of the surrounding landscape. Higher up, a grand stairway once passed through a monumental lion-shaped gateway, of which only the giant paws remain, their scale hinting at the majesty that once was. The summit held the royal palace, offering panoramic views stretching to the horizon. To this day, one can imagine the king standing there, surveying his man-made paradise, a ruler literally above the world he commanded. But Sigiriya is more than a fortress. It is a message written in stone, a place where art, power, and mystery converge. Along the western face of the rock, painted high on sheer cliffs, are the Sigiriya Maidens, a series of exquisite frescoes depicting women adorned with flowers and jewelry, their faces serene, their eyes distant. Scholars debate who they were: celestial beings, attendants of the king, or representations of fertility and abundance. Their beauty has outlived their meaning. Beside them lies the mirror wall, once polished so finely that the king could see his reflection in it. Even now, faint traces of ancient poetry can be read along its surface. Graffiti left by travelers more than 1,000 years ago, verses of admiration for the painted women and the breathtaking view. These writings are among the oldest known examples of Sinhala literature, transforming a defensive wall into a living archive of emotion and wonder. Yet, beyond the artistry lies a deeper enigma. How did Kashyapa's engineers design such sophisticated water systems, complete with pressurized fountains and reservoirs, using the technology of their time? The geometry and hydraulics suggest a knowledge far beyond what was thought possible in 5th century Sri Lanka. Some researchers propose that the builders drew upon an older, possibly forgotten engineering tradition, one that predates Kashyapa's reign. Could Sigiriya have been built atop a much earlier sacred site, repurposed by later rulers? This idea gains weight when viewed in the context of regional legends. Some ancient texts describe Sigiriya not as a fortress, but as Alakamanda, the city of the gods, an abode of Kubera, the deity of wealth. Could this imply that the site held religious or astronomical significance long before Kashyapa's time? Others have drawn parallels between Sigiriya and the mythic concept of Vimanas, celestial palaces or flying machines described in ancient Sanskrit epics. The perfectly symmetrical layout, the elevated throne room, even the alignment of certain water channels with the solstices all invite speculation that Sigiriya might have served as a ceremonial center aligned with the heavens. Archaeologists, of course, maintain that the site's grandeur reflects human ambition, not divine or extraterrestrial intervention. Yet, as in many ancient wonders, the precision and beauty of Sigiriya leave room for imagination. Kashyapa's reign ended tragically. When his brother returned with an army to reclaim the throne, the king, believing himself betrayed, took his own life. After his death, the citadel fell into ruin, reclaimed by jungle and myth alike. Today, climbing the narrow iron stairs that cling to the rock's face, one feels the weight of history pressing in from all sides. The wind carries whispers across the summit, and the stone itself seems to hum with forgotten voices. Sigiriya stands as both a triumph and a riddle, a place where the human desire for immortality met the limits of time. Was it merely a king's refuge, or the echo of something far older? An inheritance from a civilization whose knowledge has slipped through the cracks of recorded history? The question lingers unanswered in the still air above the Lion Rock. At the northernmost tip of Newfoundland, where the Atlantic winds sweep cold and untamed across a barren landscape, lies a quiet place that once changed our understanding of history. The ground here, blanketed with low grass and scattered with hardy shrubs, conceals something extraordinary: Longyou Meadows, a name that sounds almost gentle, but beneath which lies one of archaeology's most startling discoveries. It is a place where time feels stretched thin. The horizon rolls endlessly toward the sea, and the air carries the brine of ancient voyages. Yet buried in this lonely corner of North America are the remains of sod-built houses, blacksmithing workshops, and wooden structures, traces of a people who crossed an ocean 1,000 years ago. For centuries, it was believed that the first Europeans to set foot on the continent arrived with Columbus in 1492. But the excavations at Longyou Meadows revealed a far older story. In 1960, Norwegian explorer Helge Ingstad and archaeologist Anne-Stina Ingstad unearthed the unmistakable remnants of a Norse settlement, longhouses built in the same style as those found in Greenland and Iceland, dating to around 1000 AD. Radiocarbon analysis and artifacts, like a bronze-ringed pin and iron nails forged by Viking hands, confirmed the unimaginable. The Norse had reached North America nearly 5 centuries before Columbus ever set sail. The discovery transformed myth into history. The sagas of Leif Erikson, once considered mere legend, suddenly took on the weight of fact. The Icelandic sagas spoke of a place called Vinland, a land to the west rich in timber, grasslands, and grapes. For years, scholars debated whether Vinland was purely fictional or based on truth. Here, on this wind-lashed shore, that question seemed finally answered. And yet, only partly. While the remains at Longyou Meadows confirm a Norse presence, many mysteries remain unsolved. The settlement appears to have been occupied for only a brief period, perhaps a decade, perhaps less. The structures, though skillfully built, show no signs of expansion. There are no graves, no temples, no evidence of families settling for generations. Why, after such an extraordinary journey, would the Norse abandon it so quickly? Some believe the harsh environment and the isolation forced them to return to Greenland. Others point to the sagas themselves, which describe violent encounters with the indigenous peoples they called Skrælings. Perhaps the newcomers were simply outnumbered, but some aspects don't fit so neatly. The site's construction suggests it may have been more than just a fleeting outpost. Its placement, strategically near the entrance of the Gulf of St. Lawrence, would have offered access to vast inland waterways and resources. Did Longyou Meadows serve as a base for deeper explorations southward, perhaps toward lands where the climate was warmer and the forests denser? In recent years, researchers have uncovered further clues hinting at this possibility. Butternut shells found among the Norse artifacts point to regions far south of Newfoundland, areas where such trees actually grow. This suggests that whoever lived here had journeyed beyond, collecting materials and knowledge from other lands. Was there another, as yet undiscovered, settlement further along the coast? The sagas mention Markland and Helluland, lands of forest and flat stones that some scholars associate with Labrador and Baffin Island. Others have speculated that Vinland might have been as far south as Nova Scotia or even New England. If so, could other Norse structures still lie buried beneath centuries of soil and forest, waiting for rediscovery? Then there are the more speculative theories, stories whispered along the edges of history. Some suggest that the Norse voyages went even further, tracing rivers deep into North America, establishing brief trading links with indigenous cultures. A few fringe researchers even claim to see hints of Norse influence in early Native American petroglyphs or stone alignments found across the continent, though mainstream archaeology remains skeptical. Still, the question persists. How much did the Norse truly explore, And how far did they go before fading from memory? Modern technology has added new intrigue. Satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar have revealed what may be additional Norse-style structures buried at Point Rossi, also in Newfoundland, though evidence remains inconclusive. Each potential discovery raises the same tantalizing possibility that Longyou os Meadows was not an isolated camp, but part of a wider network of exploration that spanned an ocean. Today, the wind moves freely over the reconstructed sod houses, their grassy roofs blending almost seamlessly into the earth. The sound of the sea is constant, as if echoing the oars of longships that once broke through these same cold waters. Standing here, amid the silence and the salt air, it's difficult not to imagine the courage it must have taken to sail from Greenland into the unknown, to build homes, forge iron, and plant hope on a distant shore. Yet it is the brevity of their presence that haunts the place most. Why did they come? And why did they leave so suddenly? What knowledge or contact was lost when the settlement fell silent? Perhaps the answers still lie buried somewhere along this rugged coast, under layers of moss and thyme, waiting for the day when the North once again gives up its secrets. From the endless sands of the Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter, rises a silence so vast that it seems almost ancient in itself. The horizon stretches unbroken in every direction, a rolling ocean of dunes that shimmer under a merciless sun. Yet buried beneath this desolate expanse, once lay a city whispered about for millennia. A city said to have been so magnificent that it was called Atlantis of the Sands. Its name was Ubar. The search for Ubar begins not with a shovel, but with a legend. Ancient texts and oral traditions from the Arabian Peninsula tell of a city lost to time, destroyed for its arrogance and excess. In the Quran, it is known as Iram of the Pillars, a place built by the people of Ad, a civilization that defied divine warning and was swallowed by the sands as punishment. But for centuries, historians debated whether Ubar was real or merely myth, a cautionary tale from the age before recorded history. Then, in the early 1990s, a series of satellite images changed everything. Archaeologists working with NASA used radar to trace ancient trade routes, ghostly lines beneath the desert surface that converged on a single location in southern Oman. Beneath the dunes, at a site called Shisar, lay the crumbled remains of stone walls and towers. Could this have been the legendary city of Ubar? Excavations revealed a fortress-like settlement, partially collapsed into a massive sinkhole. The site contained pottery shards, incense burners, and remnants of an old water system. Radiocarbon dating placed its occupation as far back as 2800 BC. Its location was strategic, an oasis on the frankincense trade route, the lifeline that once linked Arabia with the great civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Palestine. Frankincense, a fragrant resin harvested from desert trees, was once worth more than gold. It was burned in temples, used in rituals, and prized in trade across the ancient world. Ubar's prosperity was built upon this trade, a vital hub connecting caravans that carried the resin north toward the Mediterranean. Yet the site's sudden collapse raised questions. Was it a natural disaster, caused by the slow erosion of an underground cavern until the ground finally gave way? Or was it something more? Some suggested the sinkhole might have inspired the legend of divine punishment, the city literally swallowed by the earth for its pride. Others pointed out that the settlement seemed too small to match the grandeur described in ancient texts. If Ubar had been a thriving city-state, where were the palaces, the grand avenues, the evidence of a vast population? The more archaeologists uncovered, the more elusive the truth became. Perhaps Ubar was not a single city at all, but a name given to a region, a network of trading outposts scattered across the southern desert. Or perhaps the real Ubar lies still undiscovered, hidden deeper within the empty quarter's uncharted dunes, where shifting sands conceal millennia of history. And then there are the stories that fall outside the boundaries of accepted archaeology, tales of ancient technology and lost civilizations that predate known history. Some fringe theorists have speculated that Ubar might be a remnant of an earlier forgotten culture, one with knowledge and architectural skill far beyond its time. Others draw comparisons to Atlantis, suggesting both stories may spring from the same ancient memory of a cataclysm that wiped away entire peoples and cities. A few even claim that strange glass-like materials found in parts of the Rub al-Khali hint at intense heat, perhaps from a meteor impact or other catastrophic event that could have erased Ubar from the surface in an instant. Yet no solid evidence has confirmed these theories. Like the desert mirage, Ubar's reality seems to shimmer just out of reach. What is known is that this region was once far from empty. Fossilized riverbeds, long dried, show that the desert once bloomed with life. The landscape may have been green and fertile, its oases sustaining vibrant communities. Over time, shifting climate patterns brought increasing aridity, and the once bustling trade routes were slowly abandoned. In that sense, Ubar's fall might have been less divine punishment and more the slow hand of nature reclaiming what was hers. Still, as one stands amid the ruins of Shisar, gazing across the golden waves of sand, it is difficult not to feel the weight of its legend. The wind whispers through the broken stones, and the dunes seem to shift like a living thing, burying, revealing, and burying again the fragments of a forgotten age. Was Ubar truly here? Or was this merely one chapter of a much larger story, one that stretches back to a time before memory, when desert empires rose and fell, leaving only myth in their wake? Perhaps the city still sleeps beneath the sands, its towers intact beneath the earth, awaiting the moment when the desert, so patient, so ancient, decides once more to give up one of its secrets. As the desert winds sweep across the rugged landscapes of southern Jordan, they whisper through the stones of something vast, ancient, and almost forgotten. A line that stretches across the earth like a scar from another age. Beneath the relentless sun, the Khatt Shebib wall cuts a faint path through the wilderness, its broken stones tracing the horizon for nearly 90 miles. It's not grand or towering, like the Great Wall of China or the fortresses of Rome, but subtle, so subtle that for centuries it escaped the world's attention. From above, through the eyes of satellites and aerial photography, the wall emerges like a shadow, a long, wavering thread etched across valleys and rocky plains. It rises no higher than a man's waist in most places, constructed from rough local stone without mortar. Time has eroded much of its height, but its course remains clear, winding through the barren landscape with a strange precision, as if following a path of purpose known only to those who built it. What purpose that was, however, remains one of the region's oldest enigmas. The Khatt Shebib was first brought to modern attention in 1948 by British diplomat Sir Alec Kirkbride, who stumbled upon it while flying over the region. Since then, archaeologists and historians have struggled to make sense of its existence. Stretching from near the southern edge of the Dead Sea to the Mound Plateau, it cuts through areas that, even in antiquity, were sparsely populated and largely inhospitable. Why would anyone build a wall here, across an open desert, where neither army nor farmer could easily survive? Some believe it served as a boundary marker, separating tribal lands or defining territories during a time when kingdoms and nomadic groups often clashed for control of scarce water sources. Others suggest it may have been used to control the movement of people and livestock, perhaps guiding trade caravans or protecting grazing lands. but none of these theories seem entirely sufficient to explain its scale or its persistence. Radiocarbon dating and ceramic evidence hint that parts of the wall could date as far back as the first millennium BC, though its construction may have been altered and reused over the centuries. Small watchtowers and stone enclosures have been found along its route, some circular, others rectangular, suggesting that it wasn't merely a symbolic line in the sand. These features imply watchful eyes once stood here, guarding or monitoring something long lost to time. But what exactly were they guarding? The desert offers few clues. There are no traces of major settlements or fortresses at either end of the wall, no clear signs of sustained habitation. Unlike defensive walls built to protect cities, the Khatt Shebib doesn't enclose anything. It simply extends across the emptiness, vanishing into the horizon. Could it have once connected a network of now vanished oases or outposts? Or did it serve a ceremonial or even astronomical purpose, aligned with stars or solstices like other mysterious ancient constructions? Some researchers have noticed that in certain stretches, the wall aligns roughly parallel to ancient trade routes that connected Arabia with Palestine and beyond. If true, it might have acted as a form of border control, an early customs line of sorts, marking the limits of influence of a forgotten kingdom. Yet this explanation still feels incomplete. The effort required to build such a structure across so harsh a terrain would have been immense, suggesting an organized society with both labor and leadership capable of commanding it. And then come the more speculative interpretations. A few fringe theorists have proposed that the Khatt Shebib was never meant for defense or division at all, but for guidance. They suggest it may have functioned as a processional or spiritual pathway, a route followed during religious pilgrimages now lost to memory. Others even hint that its origins could predate known civilizations of the region, perhaps the remnant of a proto-culture that existed before the rise of recorded kingdoms in Arabia and the Levant. There are also those who wonder if the wall may have served a practical but forgotten ecological function, perhaps a barrier for managing herds or controlling the flow of seasonal floods. The region's harsh climate, unpredictable rains, and ancient patterns of migration may have inspired innovations we no longer recognize. Whatever its true purpose, the Khatt Shebib stands as a reminder of how much of humanity's story remains unwritten. Beneath the sand and stone of the Arabian deserts lie the traces of lives and labors that time has nearly erased, yet not entirely. The wall persists, its lines still visible to those who look closely enough, whispering a message from an age before borders and maps. As dusk falls, the stones of Khatt Shebib catch the dying light, casting long shadows across the desert floor. There is a quiet dignity in their endurance, an echo of intent that refuses to fade. Was this the frontier of an ancient kingdom, the path of pilgrims, or the silent marker of something far older, something the desert itself has chosen to guard? Whatever truth lies buried beneath the sands, the wall still stretches on, mile after mile, its purpose as inscrutable as the desert that surrounds it. Perhaps, somewhere along its forgotten length, the secret still waits to be found. Across the rolling hills and mist-covered valleys of the Korean peninsula, immense slabs of stone rise from the earth like silent sentinels of another age. Some stand proudly atop grassy knolls, balanced with impossible precision. Others lie half-buried, their shapes softened by time and lichen. These are the Dolmens of Korea, prehistoric megaliths that have watched over the land for thousands of years. Their presence feels almost deliberate, as though placed not merely by human hands, but by a purpose that transcends time itself. In the quiet dawn, when the morning fog drifts low across the rice fields, the dolmens appear spectral, shadows of an ancient civilization that left no written word, no clear record of its beliefs. Yet these massive stone structures, numbering more than 30,000 across the peninsula, tell a story that has yet to be fully understood. Korea holds nearly 70% of all the dolmens known in the world, more than found in Europe or the Mediterranean, where such monuments first captured the imagination of scholars. Archaeologists classify the dolmens into two main types: northern style, where large capstones rest on upright supports forming table-like chambers, and southern style, where the stones are embedded into the ground, appearing almost like altars. Most are found clustered in regions such as Gochang, Hwasun, and Gangwon, now UNESCO World Heritage Sites, but their distribution stretches far beyond, following river valleys, plains, and even mountain slopes. The conventional view is that these were burial sites, built between 1000 and 300 BC during the Korean Bronze Age. Excavations have revealed traces of pottery, stone tools, and bronze artifacts within or near some of the chambers, hints of ritual offerings and funerary customs. The stones themselves, often weighing tens or even hundreds of tons, suggest communities organized around immense collective effort. But why they were built in such extraordinary numbers, and what they truly symbolized, remains uncertain. Some dolmens appear carefully aligned with celestial bodies, their entrances facing east toward the rising sun, or arranged along invisible lines that echo the movement of stars. Could these structures have served as astronomical markers, linking the cycles of life and death with those of the heavens? Or were they territorial markers, defining the domains of ancient clans long before kingdoms emerged on the peninsula? Even the engineering behind them is astonishing. In places like Gangwon Island, capstones weighing up to 300 tons rest atop narrow supports, an achievement that challenges our understanding of prehistoric technology. Without metal cranes or beasts of burden, how did early Koreans move and raise such immense stones? Were ramps and levers enough, or did they employ methods now lost to history? Some scholars propose that the dolmens mark not just individual graves, but the ritual centers of early societies, sacred landscapes where the living communed with ancestral spirits. The stones might have symbolized portals between worlds, the earth, the ancestors, and the divine. Yet the deeper one looks, the more questions seem to multiply. A few researchers note intriguing parallels between Korea's dolmens and those found thousands of miles away, in places like Palestine, Northern Europe, and the Caucasus. Could there have been a shared tradition of megalithic construction that spread across continents during the late Neolithic and Bronze Ages? Or did these structures emerge independently, springing from a universal human desire to honor the dead and reach toward the eternal? More speculative theories imagine the dolmens as remnants of a lost maritime culture, one that may have navigated coastlines and rivers long before recorded history. The consistent craftsmanship, the selection of stones, and even certain recurring dimensions across regions have led some to wonder whether these sites were connected through trade, migration, or even shared belief. Others venture further still, suggesting that the dolmens mark energy lines or geomagnetic anomalies, their placement guided by ancient knowledge of the Earth's subtle forces. Such ideas remain controversial, yet they linger in the cultural imagination, refusing to be dismissed entirely. When night descends over Gochang or Hwasun, and the stars emerge above the quiet hills, the dolmens seem to resonate with a stillness older than memory. They belong to a world where death and nature were not separate realms, but part of the same cycle, where stone became a vessel for spirit, and where silence held meaning. Even after decades of research, their mystery endures. Were they tombs, temples, or something in between, a physical bridge between humanity and the cosmos? Each dolmen holds its own secret, its own silent answer sealed within the weight of stone. The Korean landscape is dotted with these enigmas, reminders that beneath the progress of modern civilization lies a foundation built upon questions as old as humankind. And perhaps somewhere among the thousands of stones still standing, the true story of these megaliths remains waiting, hidden in plain sight, beneath the same sky their builders once watched. As the sun rises over the rugged plateau of the Western Ghats in Maharashtra, its first light spills across a cliff face carved with astonishing precision. There, cut directly into the volcanic basalt of the mountain, stands one of the most extraordinary monuments on Earth, the Kailasa Temple of Ellora. From a distance, it seems almost impossible. A freestanding temple complex, complete with towering pillars, intricate sculptures, and sweeping courtyards, yet carved from a single massive rock. No separate stones, no masonry, no joints. The entire structure was hewn downward into the mountain itself. Approaching it, the scale becomes overwhelming. Massive elephants carved from the same bedrock appear to bear the weight of the temple upon their backs. Columns rise like living stone forests, every surface alive with carvings of gods, demons, dancers, and mythic beasts. It is said to represent Mount Kailasa, the celestial abode of Lord Shiva, and in its grandeur, it seems less built than revealed, as though the mountain itself had been sculpted to uncover something that had always been there. The Kailasa Temple is part of the vast Ellora Caves, a complex of 34 monasteries and temples stretching over 2 kilometers, carved between the 6th and 7th centuries, 10th centuries AD. Yet even among these wonders, Kailasa stands apart. Archaeologists believe it was commissioned by King Krishna I of the Rashtrakuta dynasty around the 8th century. What makes it astonishing is not only its beauty, but the method of its creation. Unlike most temples, which rise stone by stone, the Kailasa was carved from the top down. Workers began at the peak of the basalt cliff and cut downward through more than 200,000 tons of solid rock. Engineers and artisans would have had to plan each step with absolute precision, for a single mistake could have destroyed decades of work. How they achieved such symmetry and scale using the tools of the time, simple chisels, hammers, and iron picks, remains one of the enduring puzzles of ancient engineering. Conservative estimates suggest it would have taken decades, even centuries, to complete by ordinary methods. Yet some inscriptions imply that the main temple was finished in an astonishingly short span, perhaps as little as 18 years. Could thousands of workers, guided by a precise vision and coordination, have truly achieved such a feat in so little time? Or does this hint at techniques and knowledge now lost to history? Archaeologists and architects continue to debate how the builders managed to remove such immense volumes of rock with such exactness. Some suggest that the basalt may have been softened by fire and then chiseled away. Others that an elaborate scaffolding and water-based leveling system allowed for careful measurements. But none of these theories fully explain the temple's accuracy, the complexity of its internal spaces, or the seamless integration of structural and artistic design. More speculative thinkers propose that the Kailasa Temple may have been built atop far older foundations, or that the site itself may predate the dynasty to which it is attributed. Legends tell of divine architects or celestial artisans who descended to Earth to carve it in a single night. Some fringe theories even suggest advanced technologies were once employed, tools capable of cutting through basalt with the precision of modern machinery. Though unsupported by evidence, such ideas persist, fueled by the sheer perfection of the work. Adding to the enigma, the temple's design incorporates motifs and iconography that seem to blend different traditions: Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain, hinting at a deeper cultural synthesis. Was Kailasa a product of a unified spiritual vision, or did it inherit its form from an even older sacred structure? Beneath its courtyards, unexplored tunnels and chambers whisper of forgotten purposes, some sealed, others leading into the mountain's darkness. The mountain itself seems to guard its secret well. Modern scanning has revealed other cavities within the rock, suggesting that portions of the site remain unexplored, perhaps containing inscriptions, relics, or architectural plans that could one day illuminate its origins. Yet the deeper one studies the site, the more it seems to resist simple explanation. Standing before the Kailasa Temple, the silence feels almost sentient. The air is thick with the weight of centuries, with questions carved into the very stone. How did artisans of the 8th century conceive and execute such perfection? Was it human ingenuity alone, or the echo of a lost knowledge glimpsed only through this masterpiece of stone? In the shadow of the cliffs, as the sunlight fades and the carvings blur into the dark, the temple seems to breathe again with the mystery of its making. Perhaps its builders intended it that way, not merely as a monument to faith, but as a reminder that creation itself can be a sacred enigma, one meant never to be fully solved. Just off the southern coast of Laconia, Greece, beneath the tranquil blue waters of the Peloponnese, lies a city that time forgot. The waves above it shimmer quietly in the sunlight, hiding beneath them one of the oldest known submerged towns on Earth, Pavlopetri. At first glance, the site appears to be little more than a series of stones scattered on the seabed. But as the water clears, the unmistakable geometry of streets, walls, and courtyards comes into focus. It is a city, a Bronze Age settlement frozen in time beneath the Aegean Sea. Discovered in 1967 by oceanographer Nicholas Fleming and later studied by archaeologists from the University of Cambridge, Pavlopetri lies just a few meters underwater, perfectly preserved by the gentle sands that covered it for millennia. What they found was extraordinary: an organized urban landscape with streets, houses, and even a central square, evidence of town planning more than 5,000 years old, dating back to around 2800 BC. The city once thrived along what would have been a bustling coastline. Its inhabitants traded, fished, built stone homes, and possibly worshipped within small shrines or sanctuaries. Pottery fragments link Pavlopetri to the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, two of the great powers of the ancient Aegean world. Yet this settlement predates both. It suggests that complex urban life and maritime trade emerged in Greece far earlier than previously believed. As archaeologists mapped the site, a picture began to emerge of a sophisticated society. Streets aligned with deliberate precision, drainage systems channeled water, and multi-roomed dwellings suggest that Pavlopetri was no mere fishing village. Some buildings were large and well constructed, perhaps homes of merchants or officials. Others clustered near open courtyards, hinting at markets or gathering places. This was a living, breathing community. And then it was gone. Sometime around 1000 BC, the city vanished beneath the sea. The reasons remain unclear. Most scholars attribute its submersion to a series of earthquakes and rising sea levels, common in this seismically active region. Over time, the land sank and the sea quietly claimed it. Yet the precision with which Pavlopetri disappeared, its walls intact, its streets undisturbed, leaves room for speculation. Was the flooding sudden, catastrophic, or gradual? And what of the people who once walked these streets? Did they leave behind records, stories, or myths that might connect to other ancient flood legends of the Mediterranean? Some researchers have drawn comparisons between Pavlopetri and Plato's tale of Atlantis, the fabled island civilization said to have sunk beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune. While the connection remains speculative, the resemblance is tempting. A once thriving city swallowed by the sea, its memory erased, its existence rediscovered only millennia later. Could Pavlopetri be a remnant of that ancient myth? Or perhaps one of many real cities that inspired it? What deepens the mystery is the sophistication of its layout. The concept of urban planning in the early Bronze Age was thought to belong to civilizations far to the east, in Mesopotamia and along the Nile. Yet here, in southern Greece, an equally advanced settlement took root. How did these people acquire such architectural and social knowledge? Were they influenced by contact with other early cultures? Or did they develop these innovations independently? Modern technology has begun to peel back the layers of mystery. Using 3D sonar mapping and underwater drones, researchers have recreated the city in virtual form, revealing not only its streets and houses, but also what appears to be a megaron, an early type of great hall that would later define Mycenaean palaces. Such continuity suggests that Pavlopetri may represent a missing link, a bridge between the early coastal traders of the Aegean and the later empires that shaped the Greek world. Yet, questions persist. Why was the city built so close to the shifting shoreline in a region prone to seismic change? Did its builders understand the risks, or were the waters once much farther away? Beneath layers of sand and sediment, could there be deeper levels, older structures, hinting at an even earlier occupation now hidden from view? Divers report that each exploration feels like entering a dream. The sea is calm, the light filtered, and the stones below seem to whisper stories from a forgotten age. Fish swim through doorways that once opened to courtyards. Seaweed drapes across ancient walls like curtains. Time has transformed the city, yet it remains eerily alive in its silence. Standing on the shore today, looking out across the same waters that now cover Pavlopetri, it is difficult not to wonder what other memories lie buried beneath the sea. How many cities, how many civilizations sleep below the waves, waiting to be rediscovered? The ocean hides more than life within its depths. It holds the ghosts of our earliest beginnings, still whispering through the currents that sweep across Pavlopetri's sunken streets. In the remote countryside of Jian, near the border of modern-day China and North Korea, a solitary stone pyramid rises quietly from the mist. Its shape is unmistakable, stepped, symmetrical, and ancient. Locals call it the Tomb of the General, though no one can say with certainty which general was buried there, or even if it was a tomb at all. The landscape around it feels timeless. Rolling green hills stretch into the distance, broken only by patches of forest and the slow curves of the Yalu River. The air carries the scent of pine and earth, and as the morning fog drifts across the slopes, the pyramid's silhouette looms like a remnant of another world. Massive stone blocks form its body, each one carefully cut and stacked without the use of mortar, rising some 43 feet high. From a distance, it resembles the smaller cousins of Egypt's pyramids or the ancient step pyramids of Mesoamerica. But this one stands alone, thousands of miles from either. Archaeologists have dated the structure to the Goguryeo Kingdom, a powerful civilization that thrived from the 1st century BC to the 7th century AD. The Goguryeo people were known for their engineering skill and their distinctive art, murals painted inside tombs that depict warriors, celestial beings, and scenes of daily life. But this monument, unique among the hundreds of Goguryeo burial sites, defies easy classification. The Tomb of the General earned its name from local legends, claiming it to be the resting place of King Gwanggaeto the Great, one of Korea's most celebrated warrior kings, who expanded his realm across vast territories. Yet no inscription, no relic, no body has ever confirmed the claim. Inside, the tomb's chamber lies empty. Its walls are bare, its passages stripped long ago, by robbers or by time itself. And so the mystery deepens. If this is not Gwanggaeto's tomb, then whose is it? Some scholars believe it could belong to one of his descendants, perhaps King Jiangsu, who moved the Goguryeo capital to Pyongyang. Others propose that the monument was not meant for any single ruler, but served as a symbolic tomb, a cenotaph representing royal lineage or divine connection. Still, there are details that refuse to fit neatly into known history. The pyramid stones, each weighing several tons, were precisely cut and aligned with geometric accuracy. No ancient records describe how they were transported or lifted into place. Was the construction purely the work of Goguryeo engineers, or could they have inherited techniques from older, now lost cultures? Comparisons to faraway structures have only added to the intrigue. The stepped design evokes similarities with the pyramids of Central America, leading some to suggest a global diffusion of architectural ideas, or, in more speculative circles, a lost common origin of pyramid-building civilizations. While such claims remain unproven, the parallels are striking enough to invite wonder. Equally puzzling is the tomb's orientation. Studies suggest the structure was built with precise astronomical alignment, possibly marking the solstices or the path of certain stars. In the cosmology of ancient Goguryeo, celestial phenomena carry deep symbolic meaning. The king was often seen as a bridge between heaven and earth, a ruler not merely of men, but of cosmic order. If the tomb of the general truly mirrors the stars, it may have been designed not only as a burial site, but as a monument to eternity itself. And yet, the tomb remains silent. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed little. The inner chambers, if there are more than the visible one, are sealed. Some archaeologists believe that beneath the visible mound may lie deeper vaults or secret chambers yet untouched, concealed by centuries of soil and stone. Could these hidden spaces contain the remains of a royal figure, or treasures buried to accompany him into the afterlife? In recent years, whispers of a larger complex beneath the surrounding hills have emerged. Satellite imagery hints at geometric patterns in the terrain, possible foundations, roads, or auxiliary tombs. If true, it suggests the tomb of the general may have once been part of a vast necropolis, a city of the dead designed to mirror the living capital above. Standing before it today, the structure feels almost alive, its stones weathered but unbroken, its symmetry perfect, even after more than 1,000 years. It commands a quiet respect, as if the spirits of those who built it still linger among the shadows of its steps. Was this truly the final resting place of a great Goguryeo king, or a monument to something far older and more enigmatic? The tomb offers no answers. It stands instead as a silent guardian of history, keeping its secrets beneath layers of stone and time. And as the wind whispers through the valleys of Jian, one cannot help but wonder, what else lies buried beneath these ancient hills, waiting for the earth to give up its memory? High in the mountains of Lebanon, overlooking the fertile Bekaa Valley, lies a place that defies imagination. The ruins of Baalbek, ancient and immense, rise from the earth like the bones of a forgotten god. At its heart stands what was once one of the grandest temples of the Roman world, the Temple of Jupiter. But among its towering columns and massive foundations lingers a mystery that has baffled historians and engineers for centuries. The first sight of Baalbek is overwhelming. The remaining columns of the Temple of Jupiter, 6 of them still standing, soar nearly 70 feet into the air, each carved from a single piece of stone. They seem almost impossible in scale, dwarfing even the great temples of Rome itself. Around them, fallen capitals and broken blocks lie scattered, their surfaces carved with intricate patterns worn smooth by 2,000 years of wind and rain. The site feels ancient not merely in age, but in essence, older than recorded memory. Archaeologists tell us that Baalbek was once Heliopolis, the city of the sun, a Roman outpost dedicated to Jupiter, Venus, and Bacchus. Construction began around the 1st century BC and continued for centuries under imperial rule. The complex was a marvel of engineering and devotion, its temples among the largest ever built. Yet beneath its Roman splendor lies a deeper enigma, one that stretches far beyond the reach of classical history. At the base of the complex lies the Trilithon, 3 colossal stone blocks forming part of the temple's platform. Each block weighs an estimated 800 tons, cut and fitted with such precision that even a knife blade cannot slide between them. Nearby, in the ancient quarry, rests an even larger stone, the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighing over 1,000 tons. In 2014, archaeologists discovered yet another block beneath it, even larger, exceeding 1,200 tons. How were these stones quarried, moved, and positioned with such accuracy? The question has haunted researchers for generations. The Romans, renowned engineers though they were, left no record describing the methods used here. No pulleys, cranes, or lifting systems known from antiquity could have managed such weight. Was it sheer human ingenuity, thousands of laborers working in unison, using ramps and rollers? Or does Baalbek preserve the legacy of an earlier, forgotten civilization, one that mastered techniques now lost to time? Some scholars propose that the Roman builders merely expanded upon a much older foundation, perhaps Phoenician, perhaps something more obscure still. Local legends speak of the site as the dwelling place of gods, or even as the landing ground of celestial beings. The ancient Canaanites believed Baal, their storm god, made his home here, hence the name Baalbek, city of Baal. The Greeks later equated Baal with Zeus, the Romans with Jupiter. It is as though each civilization inherited the site, layering its own gods atop the same sacred ground, as if drawn by something ancient and unexplainable beneath the surface. When examined closely, the lower megalithic stones of the platform appear distinct from the Roman masonry above them. The fit, the wear, the weathering, all suggest different eras of construction. Could the Romans have built upon a foundation that already stood when they arrived? If so, who raised these original stones, and for what purpose? In recent decades, alternative theories have emerged, ranging from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some suggest the megaliths were moved using advanced ancient engineering, perhaps through lubrication, counterweights, or techniques we no longer understand. Others, venturing further, speculate that Baalbek may predate recorded civilization entirely, its origins stretching back to a time before the known rise of human architecture. The temple's alignment adds another layer of intrigue. Its axis points toward certain celestial bodies, possibly linked to the movement of Jupiter itself. Was this by design? Did the builders intend not only to honor the gods, but to mirror the heavens in stone? Such alignments were common in ancient sacred architecture, but here, amid the immensity of Baalbek, they feel almost cosmological, an attempt to anchor the divine within the fabric of the earth. And yet, amid all these theories, one truth remains unshaken. No one knows for certain how or why Baalbek's greatest stones were set in place. The technology, the manpower, and the original intent remain subjects of debate, suspended between archaeology and myth. As twilight descends over the Bekaa Valley, the last rays of sun catch on the sandstone columns, turning them to gold. The air grows still. The vast stones seem to hum with their own quiet gravity, as if waiting for a story long forgotten to be told once more. Was the Temple of Jupiter truly the work of Rome, or a reconstruction atop something far older, a memory carved in stone from a lost age? The answers may lie buried beneath Baalbek's foundations, deep within the layers of history where myth and fact blur into one. And until those secrets are unearthed, the stones will continue to stand, silent, immovable, and unknowable. Perched atop a limestone ridge overlooking the cobalt expanse of the Mediterranean Sea, the Hagar Qim Temples rise like the remnants of a forgotten ritual. Their stones, weathered to soft ochre and gray by millennia of sun and salt-laden winds, seem almost alive, whispering stories that have long slipped from human memory. The cliffs drop sharply below, leaving the temples exposed to the elements, yet they have endured, silent sentinels of a civilization that vanished more than 5,000 years ago. At first glance, Hagar Qim appears deceptively simple: low walls, jagged megaliths, and uneven chambers. Yet a closer inspection reveals astonishing sophistication. Some stones weigh several tons, carefully cut and positioned with precision that continues to baffle modern engineers. Massive upright slabs form doorways aligned with exacting angles, while interior chambers contain carved altars, niches, and depressions whose purposes remain uncertain. Certain stones appear to capture sunlight in deliberate ways, illuminating specific parts of the temple at the solstices. Was this an early form of astronomical observation, or did it serve a deeper, more symbolic purpose, connecting the human with the cosmic? Archaeologists date Hagar Qim to around 3,600 to 3,200 BC, making it contemporary with early Egyptian and Mesopotamian constructions. Yet while those civilizations left extensive records, Hagar Qim yields no written language, no inscriptions, no direct evidence of the people who built it. We can infer, but we cannot know. Some of the carvings suggest fertility rites, images of figures with exaggerated features, possibly representing women, and circular motifs that may have symbolized the sun or the moon. Yet the meaning of these symbols remains open to interpretation. One of the most perplexing aspects of Hagar Qim is the sheer effort required to quarry and transport the stones. Local limestone had to be cut, moved, and lifted without the benefit of pulleys or wheeled vehicles. How did a prehistoric society accomplish this feat, and why choose this particular cliffside for construction? Was the site selected for its panoramic view of the sea and the horizon, or for spiritual resonance with the landscape itself? Theories abound, from ceremonial centers for communal rites to sacred observatories aligned with celestial cycles. Yet none fully explain the meticulous engineering combined with the site's remote, windswept location. Visitors today are struck by the alignment of the temples. As the sun rises over the Mediterranean on the summer solstice, light streams through the central doorway and strikes the inner altar. A similar effect occurs during the winter solstice. Could this be intentional? An ancient calendar marking the changing seasons? Or was it an incidental result of architectural choices now lost to understanding? The precision suggests deliberate design, hinting at knowledge and observation far beyond what we typically attribute to prehistoric builders. Adding to the intrigue is the presence of smaller, seemingly ritualistic artifacts scattered across the site: stone balls, figurines, and cylindrical pillars whose exact use is unknown. Were these offerings, tools, sacred objects? Each discovery raises new questions, deepening the sense that Hagar Qim was more than a temple. It may have been a center of social, religious, and astronomical significance, a place where humans sought to reach the divine through stone and observation. Speculative theories have even proposed connections to distant cultures. Some suggest that the architectural knowledge required to construct Hagar Qim hints at exchanges with Mediterranean civilizations or lost maritime travelers. Others venture further, hinting at forgotten prehistoric knowledge passed down through generations yet unrecorded, leaving behind only these silent stones as testimony. While these ideas cannot be confirmed, the sheer audacity and scale of the construction invite us to imagine worlds of knowledge long vanished. As the wind sweeps across the ridge, the megaliths seem to vibrate with quiet energy, their edges softened by millennia, but their presence still commanding. Shadows stretch across carved surfaces, accentuating the mystery held within each chamber. One cannot help but feel that every stone was deliberately placed, each wall aligned to echo human devotion, celestial patterns, and perhaps even the pulse of the earth itself. Hagar Qim endures not only as a remarkable feat of prehistoric architecture, but as an enigma, a puzzle suspended between the known and the unknowable. Who exactly built these temples, and why did they dedicate such extraordinary effort to a cliffside overlooking the sea? What ceremonies were performed here, and what knowledge guided the hands that shaped the stones? The answers remain buried in time, waiting quietly beneath the sunlit sky, inviting each visitor to ponder the mysteries that continue to echo across the ridge, across centuries, and across the very human desire to touch the divine. Rising from the lush, rolling plains of Tongatapu, the main island of Tonga, the Ha'amanga, a Maui stands with a quiet, unyielding presence. 3 massive coral limestone slabs, arranged in a monumental trilithon, reach skyward, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of tropical rain and wind. The central lintel rests delicately atop 2 upright stones, forming a doorway that seems less an entrance and more a threshold between the earth and the heavens. From a distance, the formation is both austere and majestic, an architectural whisper that hints at human ambition stretching beyond the ordinary. The origins of Ha'amanga, a Maui, are shrouded in mystery, despite its prominence in Tongan history. It is generally believed to have been erected in the 13th century AD during the reign of King Tuitatui, as part of the ancient capital complex of Hihifo. Local legends describe it as a symbol of the king's power, and some traditions link it to the mythical figure Maui, the demigod who shaped the islands. Yet the sheer scale of the construction raises questions that linger even today. Each upright block weighs an estimated 30 tons, while the horizontal lintel is thought to exceed 12 meters in length. How did a society without modern machinery, quarry, transport, and lift such enormous stones with such precision? Closer inspection reveals subtleties in the arrangement that hint at more than mere grandeur. Some researchers have suggested that the trilithon may have functioned as an ancient astronomical observatory. The lintel, aligned with the solstices, seems to track the movement of the sun across the horizon, casting shadows that mark the changing seasons. Could Ha'amanga, a Maui, have been a calendar of stone, a tool for timing planting and harvest cycles, or perhaps a sacred marker of cosmic cycles? If so, it reflects a sophistication in observation and engineering that challenges assumptions about Pacific Island societies of the era. Archaeological investigations have uncovered nearby stone walls and enclosures, suggesting that the trilithon was part of a larger ceremonial complex. Some scholars posit that Ha'amanga, a Maui, may have been used in coronation rites or rituals connecting the king with celestial authority, reinforcing his legitimacy in the eyes of his subjects. Yet these theories, while compelling, are speculative. No definitive records remain, and the precise purpose of the structure eludes confirmation. The construction techniques themselves remain a source of fascination. The massive lintel rests atop its supports without mortar, fitted with such care that modern engineers marvel at the stability. Did the builders employ ingenious lever systems, wooden scaffolding, or counterweights lost to history? Or could their knowledge have included techniques passed down through oral tradition, sophisticated yet invisible to contemporary understanding? The absence of written records transforms the stones themselves into testimony, silent but insistently present. Beyond its architectural and astronomical significance, Ha'amanga, a Maui, is a profound cultural symbol. Generations of Tongans have revered it as a link to their ancestors, a tangible embodiment of history, legend, and spiritual authority. It is entwined with tales of Maui, the demigod who fished islands from the sea, and with the lineage of Tongan kings. The structure's very form, 3 stones forming a doorway, evokes thresholds, transitions, and the interface between mortal and divine. Could the trilithon have been intended as a conduit, a place where earthly and cosmic energies intersected? Speculative theories have ventured further. Some suggest Ha'amonga, a Maui, may encode astronomical knowledge that predates written history, hinting at sophisticated observation techniques carried across the Pacific. Others propose symbolic interpretations, where the stones represent the king flanked by his advisors or the balance between earth, sky, and humanity. Each hypothesis deepens the sense that the trilithon is more than a monument. It is a puzzle, a deliberate act of human ingenuity and cosmological awareness, preserved in stone. Standing before Ha'amonga, a Maui today, one is struck by a feeling of suspended time. The air is humid and fragrant with the scent of tropical vegetation. The distant waves crash along the coastline below. Sunlight filters through the central opening, casting shadows that shift with the day, as though the stones themselves are alive with memory. Every inch of limestone bears the mark of centuries, yet the structure's intent remains just out of reach. Who exactly conceived and built Ha'amonga, a Maui, and for what ultimate purpose? Was it purely political, an assertion of royal power, or a tool for tracking the heavens, or something more, something deeply spiritual and deliberately mysterious? The questions linger as the wind sweeps across the plain, leaving the stones immovable yet enigmatic, inviting each observer to wonder what knowledge, what ceremony, what unseen hand once moved through this ancient corridor of stone. In the quiet presence of Ha'amonga, a Maui, the past and present intersect, and the unanswered mysteries of human ambition and ingenuity stand silently before us, challenging us to imagine what lies hidden in the vision of those who raised these monumental stones. Stretching across the sun-baked plains of Lower Egypt, the Tarkhan Necropolis rises quietly from the shifting sands, a spectral testament to a civilization that thrived more than 4,500 years ago. The dry, ochre landscape seems almost empty, yet beneath its surface lies a labyrinth of tombs, burial chambers, and the echoes of lives once celebrated and mourned. Walking among the low, sun-bleached mounds, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing down, a silent reminder of the people who carved permanence from impermanence. At first glance, Tarkhan appears modest compared to the grandeur of the pyramids of Giza or Saqqara. Its tombs are low-lying, rectangular, often adorned with simple facades and corridors descending into the earth. Yet their understated exterior belies the sophisticated planning and architectural skill within. Many of the tombs are constructed with finely cut limestone blocks, fitted with remarkable precision, forming chambers that have resisted millennia of geological shifts. Some chambers still retain traces of painted reliefs, faded but suggestive of funerary rituals and the beliefs that guided the ancient Egyptians' understanding of life, death, and the afterlife. Archaeologists date Tarkhan primarily to the First Dynasty and early Second Dynasty circa 3,100 to 2,800 BC, making it one of Egypt's earliest formal necropolises. Excavations have revealed intricate burial practices, including wooden coffins, clay vessels, and ceremonial objects. Among the most intriguing discoveries are tombs containing elaborate hieroglyphic inscriptions and symbolic artifacts, offering glimpses into rituals, religious beliefs, and social hierarchies. Yet many of these findings raise as many questions as they answer. Why do some tombs exhibit a sudden sophistication in design, while neighboring structures remain comparatively simple? Does this reflect a social stratification, or does it hint at experimental architectural techniques lost to history? One of the enduring mysteries of Tarkhan is the sheer scale and precision of some of the tomb's construction. The alignment of certain chambers suggests careful planning, perhaps even astronomical observation. Could these early necropolises have been oriented to track celestial events, connecting the deceased with the cycles of the sun and stars? Or were these alignments symbolic, designed to maintain cosmic harmony in accordance with ancient Egyptian theology? The stones themselves, smoothed and fitted with uncanny precision, seem to insist upon a purpose beyond mere burial. The artifacts recovered from Tarkhan further deepen the enigma. Pottery, alabaster vessels, and ceremonial implements indicate not only the wealth and status of the interred, but also a culture in transition, where symbolic artistry met practical craftsmanship. Some items bear decorations that appear geometric and abstract, diverging from the naturalistic depictions typical of later Egyptian art. Were these purely aesthetic, or did they convey secret knowledge, perhaps understood only by the priests and royalty who commissioned the tombs? Even the layout of the necropolis itself invites speculation. Unlike the more organized, grid-like arrangements seen in later dynastic cemeteries, Tarkhan seems almost organic in its spread. Clusters of tombs, varying in size and complexity, interspersed with open sandy expanses. Did the placement follow religious mandates, family hierarchies, or some now lost cultural logic? Could the necropolis have functioned as more than a burial ground, perhaps as a ceremonial center for rituals that linked the living with the departed? Some fringe theories suggest Tarkhan may hold clues to an even older pre-dynastic knowledge. The precision of construction, the orientation of chambers, and the sophisticated yet enigmatic artifacts hint at a civilization already deeply aware of engineering, astronomy, and ritual practice long before written history recorded it. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the continuing fascination with a site that bridges the known and the unknowable. Standing at Tarkhan today, the desert wind stirs the sand along the worn pathways, whispering past the low stone walls and corridors that descend into shadowed chambers. The sun casts long lines across the necropolis, illuminating the tombs in shifting patterns that could almost be interpreted as intentional markers of celestial cycles. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional call of a distant bird or the rustle of dry brush. Who were the architects of Tarkhan, and what inspired their careful attention to both the spiritual and structural? What rituals, now lost to time, guided the creation of tombs that endure so faithfully? And what knowledge, astronomical, symbolic, or spiritual, might lie hidden within these sun-drenched stones, waiting to be uncovered by those who come seeking? Tarkhan Necropolis, with its enduring quiet and shadowed corridors, remains a profound enigma, inviting us to ponder the earliest chapters of human civilization and the mysteries that survive long after names and faces have faded into history. Rising from the windswept granite of the Morbihan Gulf in Brittany, France, the Gavrinis Cairn is a low, grass-covered mound that, at first glance, seems unassuming. Yet beneath this modest exterior lies one of the most remarkable and enigmatic megalithic structures of prehistoric Europe. Visitors approach the cairn along a narrow causeway, a path once surrounded by tidal waters, evoking the sense that the mound itself was meant to be approached as much by journey as by sight. The air is thick with salt from the nearby sea, and the soft rustle of reeds frames the mound in a natural hush, as if the landscape itself conspires to keep the secrets inside. Inside, a narrow passage leads into the heart of the cairn, a chamber lined with massive slabs of stone, each carved with intricate motifs. Spirals, zigzags, concentric circles, and enigmatic symbols cover the walls, arranged with a precision and care that continue to astonish archaeologists and visitors alike. Carbon dating places the construction of Gavrinis around 3,500 BC, situating it firmly within the Neolithic period. Yet the sophistication of its carvings and architectural planning suggests knowledge and artistry that seems almost anachronistic. How did communities so long ago conceive of such elaborate decoration? And what messages were they trying to convey through these silent stones? The passage itself is deliberately narrow, forcing those who enter to move in single file, perhaps reflecting ritual practices designed to create a sense of transition from the outside world into a sacred space. As one progresses deeper, the chamber opens into a central room, where the carvings are more concentrated, more deliberate. Some scholars propose that these symbols were not merely decorative but held spiritual or ceremonial significance, perhaps related to death, the afterlife, or celestial cycles. The alignment of certain motifs along the passage, along with the orientation of the cairn relative to the rising sun, has led some to suggest astronomical or calendrical functions, though certainty remains elusive. The construction techniques themselves remain a subject of fascination. The stones used in the cairn were quarried locally but transported and positioned with remarkable precision. Megalithic architecture of this scale demands careful planning and cooperation. How did Neolithic communities, with no metal tools, no draft animals, and no written plans, manage to carve, transport, and assemble such massive stones so meticulously? Did the builders possess knowledge that has since been lost, perhaps passed down orally through generations of skilled artisans and ritual specialists? Gavrinis Cairn's carvings are a mystery in their own right. Many motifs resemble patterns found in other megalithic sites across Brittany and Western Europe, hinting at shared symbolic languages or ritual practices. Spirals, for example, may represent water, life cycles, or cosmic energy, yet their precise meaning remains speculative. Some theories suggest that the intricate designs encode mythological stories, while others propose they could serve as guides for the soul, maps for the journey beyond life. The ambiguity invites contemplation. Were these purely symbolic, practical, or both? Excavations have revealed that Gavrinis was not an isolated monument, but part of a broader ritual landscape, surrounded by other cairns, alignments, and sacred sites. The cairn's placement on a small island once accessible only at low tide may indicate deliberate isolation, emphasizing the separation between the living and the spiritual, or the earthly and the cosmic. Could the builders have intended the cairn to function as a focal point for communal ceremonies, a sacred marker linking human life to the cycles of nature and the stars? Even today, entering the passage of Gavrinis is an almost meditative experience. The light filters dimly through the entrance, illuminating the carved patterns in shifting angles, as if the stones themselves are alive with memory. The air inside is cool and still, carrying a faint echo of the past. Touching the walls, one feels the weight of time, the hands of countless ancestors who labored, carved, and consecrated this place. What compelled these early communities to invest so much effort into constructing Gavrinis Cairn? Were they marking a territory, venerating the dead, observing celestial events, or communicating messages we no longer understand? The monument seems to straddle the line between practicality and the sacred, a testament to the ambition, belief, and imagination of a people whose stories survive only in stone. As one stands at the threshold of the cairn or moves along its narrow passage, the questions linger. What inspired the intricate carvings, and what secrets might the stones still conceal? Could there be patterns, knowledge, or symbolism yet undiscovered, hidden within the seemingly endless spirals and geometric motifs? Gavrinis Cairn remains a silent enigma, a bridge to a world long vanished, inviting us to ponder the profound sophistication and spiritual depth of the Neolithic minds that shaped it, leaving behind a puzzle carved in stone that has endured for more than 5,000 years. Nestled in the ancient granite quarries of Aswan, Egypt, the unfinished obelisk lies on its side, a colossal stone that was never completed, yet offers one of the most intimate glimpses into the ambitions and capabilities of ancient Egyptian civilization. Its massive bulk, estimated to have weighed over 1,200 tons had it been fully carved, rests in the very place where artisans began their monumental task millennia ago, a silent testament to both human ingenuity and the unpredictability of stone. The air around the site is dry and fragrant with dust, the sun casting sharp shadows that exaggerate the obelisk's jagged contours, emphasizing its sheer scale and the audacity of the project. This unfinished monolith is not simply a broken artifact. It is a story frozen in time. Carved directly from the bedrock, it demonstrates the extraordinary precision and skill of the ancient craftsman. Channels and grooves trace the laborious work of cutting and shaping, revealing the painstaking techniques used to extract and prepare such an enormous stone. Yet, partway through the endeavor, the obelisk cracked. Whether this fracture was due to a flaw in the granite, a miscalculation in the tools and methods, or the immense stress of the extraction process remains a mystery. What caused the work to halt, and why was the obelisk abandoned in place rather than attempted elsewhere? The questions linger as enigmatically as the stone itself. Dating to approximately 1450 BC, during the reign of Hatshepsut, the obelisk was intended to be the largest ever erected, surpassing any standing obelisk of its time. Ancient Egyptians revered these towering monuments, not only for their monumental presence, but for their symbolic significance. Obelisks were associated with the sun god Ra, meant to connect earth and sky, life and eternity. The unfinished obelisk, had it been completed, would have embodied both physical grandeur and spiritual power. Standing in its shadow, one is compelled to wonder whether the ambitious scale was merely architectural, or whether the Egyptians were attempting something far more sophisticated, some alignment with celestial events, or a ritualized resonance with the natural world now lost to history. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Marks on the stone hint at techniques that required incredible coordination: copper tools, wooden wedges, and controlled water to split the granite. Even more astonishing, when complete, the obelisk would have required a method to transport and erect it without the benefit of cranes or iron machinery. Scholars have proposed complex systems of sledges, ramps, and manpower, yet the precise mechanics remain largely speculative. How did a civilization without modern machinery envision the movement of a single monolith weighing over 1,000 tons? Was there knowledge, perhaps now lost, that allowed them to manipulate weight and leverage on a scale that defies our modern assumptions? The unfinished state of the obelisk adds layers of intrigue. Unlike the obelisks that were successfully completed and transported to temple complexes across Egypt, this one offers an unfiltered view of the process. From its basal grooves to its partially smoothed surfaces, every stage of carving is visible, a frozen workshop etched in stone. It is a rare moment of transparency in an otherwise monumental culture, which typically leaves only perfected results behind. Yet even in its incompletion, the obelisk communicates ambition, skill, and vision. It challenges us to understand the limitations imposed by nature and the profound determination of the people who dared to work against them. Speculation naturally extends beyond technique to intent. Was the crack simply a practical failure, or could it have been interpreted as an omen or a divine message to the artisans and rulers? In ancient Egypt, stone was not merely material. It was sacred, imbued with meaning and consequence. Could the abandonment of this grand project reflect not only technical difficulties, but also ritual or spiritual considerations, decisions made in reverence for forces beyond human comprehension? Standing beside the unfinished obelisk, one is struck by both awe and contemplation. Its massive form rests in quiet stillness, as if time itself has paused, holding in suspense the moment when ambition met the limits of human and natural power. The scale, the planning, the precision, All hint at a civilization that operated with extraordinary knowledge and intention. Yet, what remains unknown outweighs what can be confirmed. What secrets about construction, symbolism, and ancient Egyptian cosmology are encoded in this granite giant, waiting for discovery? How might the full obelisk have transformed our understanding of Egyptian engineering, ritual, and ambition? The unfinished obelisk continues to invite reflection. Its jagged, incomplete form is not a failure, but a monument to inquiry. A reminder that even in unfinished projects, the human drive to create, to reach toward the heavens, and to leave a mark upon the world persists. What might we learn if we could fully unlock the methods, motives, and meanings embedded in this extraordinary stone? The questions remain open, a silent dialogue between the present and a civilization that speaks to us across the millennia, daring us to imagine the impossible.